good afternoon, Oswego, I guess it is. Welcome to our special Quest Day edition of WTOP 10 News, your connection to Oswego and beyond. I'm Barry Wygel.
And I'm Samantha DiMascio. Welcome.
So, very exciting Quest Day here today. We've been trolling the presentations for the past couple hours, and we're going to bring the best of the best here to you today.
Today we have utilizing Connect Motion sensing input device to record students' affective state of frustration, which is a psychology presentation, I believe, correct?
I believe so, and I think this uses parts of the Xbox gaming system for a scientific purpose. So
I know they use it for dancing and stuff, but that's got to be interesting to see how they're using it in a scientific sense.
Yes, so when are we going to that? All right, we're going to take a look at that right now.
Create the environment so that it knows that if you're roughly a human-like shape, it can map a skeleton to you. I was brought onto the project back, I was approached back in the end of my senior year, and we were trying to do, Dr. Taylor tried to approach me about using the Connect device because it was going to be a more accurate measure of trying to gather information of a seated figure. At that point, they were using a pressure-sensitive pad for a chair, and that was okay, but it was giving it wasn't giving the same type of quality of data. So by using this device, because the price was right, it's $150, and it was right on the edge of what could be done. So we were trying to see if we could push the issue and see if it could be used in an academic setting.
This past January 2012, obviously just past 4 months, I was asked by Randy and actually Dr. Taylor as well to assist in the development of the project. There were some programming concerns, there was some additional things that we wanted to add to it, and Randy was a little overwhelmed and said, hey, do you mind helping me out? And I said, absolutely, it'd be a great idea. The main focus of what I was meant to be doing was to kind of fine-tune the user interface, make additions to it that were kind of out of Randy's reach by himself. Obviously, two heads are better than one. And we also were to begin work on the emotion research. We wanted to take the Connect that one step further and be able to make use of it for some kind of data analysis. And the best thing that we could think of was to try and analyze what the emotion of the user was during some kind of a usability test. The original task that Randy was set with was just to create that user interface for the chair, just to kind of get that up and running. He had no programming experience at all, kind of like in the background, graphic design and all that. But it was C# was what it kind of began in. It was a very hard process, actually, if Randy wants to explain how that began.
The official Microsoft Software Development Kit, or abbreviated as SDK, you can use either C++ or C#, and those were languages that were a little outside of my programming knowledge. So there was a very steep learning curve because I had to try to learn these languages at the same time while trying to develop for the device. But that was released in, I think I want to say July, and there's been multiple versions of it. So every time they've done a little bit of a tweak, so every time I have to keep changing my program a little bit. And also, too, is that the interface has also gone through a couple of different versions as well. For the beginning, we weren't sure how much information we would need. We were going to try to gather also video information, but we're also trying to gather skeletal information. And how the device actually does this is that if it detects a rough human-like shape, it will map up to 18 different joints to that humanoid shape. So you'll get your shoulders, your arms, your head, your hip, your spine, and it'll go down all through those. But the problem was is that the Connect and the programming don't want to give up that information very easily. So the trick is writing a program that could coax that information out and then also export that into a form that would be usable for us for analysis. Also, too, it's just that's another perspective of it. That dot field is what would happen if you were able to look at what the Connect is aimed at, if you were able to see infrared light. So by whatever shape is being deforming that light grid is so that the Connect can then measure that information and then be able to map a curve or map a human good shape, or a chair or a table.
Sure. As of right now, for the work that we're doing with the emotion research, we are not making use of the ability to record sound.
All right, so those of you just joining us, we want to welcome you to 2012 Quest Day coverage. We are currently looking into the utilizing the Connect motion sensing input device to record students' affective state of frustration.
And from my understanding, it's picking up on people's emotions. It can actually censor the joints in your body and in your facial structures. How neat is that?
It's pretty cool. A technology that was designed for video gaming being used for something like this.
Psychology. And they also said that it records it and it can do two people simultaneously. So that's pretty neat. So that will it record and then when you play again, it'll pick up and remember you? Is that?
I'm not sure, but I bet we can take a listen and figure it out. Let's take a look back in.
There's multiple versions of this software development kit. So this led to many different shifts in what the computer would understand. Like, you know, there's things called handlers, but I'm not going to get into it. But every time that they would release a different beta for this development kit, because it wasn't a finalized version, it created problems with my program because it wouldn't work if I wanted to keep up to date with the current driver for the Connect. So it was always a development cycle, you know, trying to get it to just right so that it could export out the information that we needed. Also, too, the programming language I wasn't very familiar with. I'm still not 100% with it, but I've learned a lot over the time I've worked with this device. Also, too, is just that with the Connect not wanting to give up this information easily, it definitely became a fight, it seemed, with the machine. And like I remember posting onto many different forums trying to get the most up-to-date information so that I could make the project work and move forward. But right now, I think we're at the best possible version of the program. So right now, we're just streamlining the interface to make it easier for somebody who doesn't have my level of experience or Dan's level of experience so that they could use it. It'll be just plug and play. Another problem too was the output needed to be adjusted so that not only could a human being read it, but also could it be uploaded to our analysis software. Our analysis software is able to import comma separated value lists, but we had to figure out a way so that there would be proper indexing for the information so that it could be referenced in the future. So it had to have a timestamp, it had to have the right join ID, and it had to also give numbers that were important, like to us as observers too, because with some of these numbers, it wants to spit it out as pixels to the screen, and that's not exactly what we need. So I needed to crack that underlying code to get just the information in meters. So that way too, we can also have a proper measurement, like to the left or the right of the device, or how close to the device, or how far away from the device.
Ideally, right now, we are at a means where we can start collecting data. Like Randy mentioned, we have gotten to a comfortable point with the actual programming. We're fine-tuning the user interface, but we are ready to begin testing and collecting the data now that we have it up and running. The main goal is by collecting this data, we want to be able to tell if there is any type of a correlation between the user's perceived emotions and what the type of emotion that they exhibit. Specifically, what we'll be focusing on is going to be frustration and like overjoyed, happiness, things like that. Potentially expanding that down the road for additional emotions as well. But right now we're going to kind of start small. We're not going to bite off more than we can chew. The long-term goal is we do want this to be used further than what we are planning to use it for. That is why we're going to continue developing the user interface over the summer, making sure that like Randy said, that it's going to be usable by someone besides us. We have it fairly intuitive actually at the moment. We've just been making a couple adjustments here and there. But we do want this to be used for more than just being able to record the skeletal data information. Using the actual video camera to record facial expressions and additional information, voice recording, things of that nature. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's about it. Are we ready for our demo? If anybody wants to come up and be a test subject, or I can just make Dan do it. Okay. Oh, there you Yeah.
Volunteer. Excellent.
So it's very non-invasive. All you have to do is stand in front of the device. Like I said, here is the Connect right here. If you just want to stand right there.
Yes.
And it currently is running. I'm going to change the tilt so you're fully into view. So each one of those different colored points is a representation of a joint. For him, it's a shoulder joint, an elbow, a knee, a spine. And it is recording right now all that information. It's storing it to a text file. And then later on, we'll be able to just import that information into our analysis program. Right now, we have it rigged up so that we have a slider bar so that it gives it a little bit, so you don't actually have to manually adjust the Connect, which is very archaic, and we didn't want to do that anymore. But the final one will actually, once it's acquired a skeleton, because sometimes it gets a little tweaky, if it can't read an entire skeleton, oh, you don't have to stand like that, is for later on is that it's for a seated figure. And one of the problems too, another challenge that we didn't discuss actually is that if it can't get an accurate read on the majority of your body, it will try to put a leg or a knee somewhere that it's not. So one of the ways that we did that is that, that's another problem that we're going to address in our data analysis.
Welcome back for your coverage for 2012 Quest Day. Right now we're watching the utilization of Connect to pick up your facial expressions and things like that. It seems to be a very neat idea and very complex with the amount of data that goes into it.
Yeah, and I was just blown away when they just showed the demonstration there, and I think it's something we're going to be saying a lot here.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. The demo definitely gave me a better understanding of what they were talking about, and they said they have long-term goals for that as well. So.
And I think it's really what Quest Day is all about. Students here starting projects and then letting other people continue them for years to come.
Right. It's a great experience.
All right, we're going to take a dip back into the program.
The avatar that would be on the screen would be reflecting your movement. So if you wave your right hand, the figure's going to be waving his left hand to try to match up with you. But for the actual output of the information, it's stored to the proper joint place, so it shouldn't be a problem there as well. Thank you very much. Give my hand, everybody. And then just to give you a sample of the amount of data that this is pulling down, just from that example alone, it goes forever. And then all these numbers are just, like say, all right, all those numbers right there, you know how they seem smaller, like 1.066? That's not really in any centimeter, that's in meters, so that's 1.1 meter away from the device. And everything, the device is considered a home spot. It's a 000. So that also gives us a good point of reference for our analysis as well.
Yeah, at any given point in time, it takes about 3 to 4 snapshots of the 18 data points every second.
Oh, many more. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, every 0.1 seconds.
Yeah.
Every
it's very, very fast.
So yeah, sorry about that.
No problem.
In a 10-second test, I mean, we're looking at over almost 1,000 points, I think.
Yeah, we start to get into the megabytes, if not edge of gigabytes amount of data. So, yes.
I have a question. So, do you guys have when it comes to reading motion, is there going to be a certain data point, data plot, a data frame that you're going to match up that data with to say, okay, this fits into this frame for this motion? Is there a certain measurement of where every joint should be for certain motion that you guys are trying to read?
We're going to try to use certain emotional cues, like if someone's becoming more frustrated, that sometimes they will lean back in the chair and become a little bit more disconnected in the activity, or if they're becoming more intently focused, sometimes they'll lean in. And that's information that we can gather with the device, because we can tell, okay, there was a shift in a 0.03 of a meter, that they've moved forward and then they've stayed closer to the monitor for a certain amount of time. A lot of it's going to be is just getting feedback from the participant and seeing what their emotional state was during the test. And then from there, we can start to generate a model, and we would have a better idea of what was the emotional state.
So it's basically that raw data in a time series format and match it with their perception of how they felt. Like,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, as many of those as you can.
Exactly.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. We're just gonna see if there's a correlation between what you perceive to be your frustrated, posture, oh, at this point I was feeling frustrated, and another person says, well, I was feeling frustrated, but my back wasn't arched the same way. Just trying to see if there's a correlation between any of the physical body movements.
That is a lot of data.
Yes, it is. Yes?
Have you considered the future application potentials, say, for example, for children with autism who have difficulties in identifying their own emotions? I have a child with autism, and part of our job as he grew was not so much, both understanding, reading body language of others, but also self-identifying that, hey, I'm starting to get frustrated, and this is what that looks like. This is amazing research. This is something that can be revolutionary for that particular population.
Oh, thank you very much. It's something that we didn't initially think of, but it is, definitely a consideration for the future. It's, there's other applications that we've discussed as well. There was a researcher that wanted to approach me that they wanted to try to use the Connect to monitor babies in a crib. And then that skeletal model needs to get adjusted a little bit because obviously a baby is not like a grown human or even like a child. So, it just will need some adjustments. And also too, being able to create a game that would be able to provide feedback for a child so that, they can have that emotional feedback would be very good.
Have you guys looked into the Connect for Windows now with the
Yes.
increased cameras?
Yes, we didn't quite discuss much of that during our missteps and calculations. When Microsoft released that, we do actually have one at the ACI lab, but they redid most of the programming language.
Yeah, most of the API is different. So we got this. We wanted to get this functional to the point where it was usable, and then from that point on, we can then port it over because they have tools that allow you to port over programs. But there wasn't really any point to bringing over a half functional program.
All right, for those of you just joining us, we want to remind you that you're watching the WTOP 10 Quest Day coverage. Excuse me. One of the words they just used there was amazing and revolutionary, and I think that truly speaks to what's going on here.
I know, it's really truly amazing that this is a student here, just beginning here. Who knows what they're going to go on to do in the future, And then they were just saying how, I thought it was interesting, how a researcher actually contacted him to do a study on babies in their cribs and how they move around in there. And with the joint thing where they can, see the joints if you're moving your back a certain way and what that means if you're frustrated and things like that. It's just so in-depth.
It really is, and they also brought up using it for special needs people, helping deal with autism. I mean, there's just unlimited possibilities for this research, and it all started here at SUNY Oswego, so.
We can be credited with that.
That's right. All right, we're going to take a couple more minutes left of this presentation. We'll bring you back there now.
Is that because it's spraying the entire area in infrared light, it sees that Dan is closer. So that information can then be extrapolated into a depth of field information. And it's pretty accurate. Like you can get like a fairly decent shell of what a face would look like, and you can even, if a mouth opens and eyes maybe, but it's it's only going to get better as the resolution gets better. But as of right now, the official SDK doesn't do any facial tracking, but I think there was some stuff that I read that the open source community was using.
Most of the facial tracking applications are using the video source rather than the depth of field and 3D modeling there. So they do pattern recognition on the video source.
Because I saw too some video of that the Connect for Windows can almost see like the edges of where your pupil would be, like your eye, the little change in, like, you have your eye lens and then you have the shape of your eye, and you can tell if you're looking left or right, but it's not anything fantastic yet.
Well, thank you.
All right, so that is our first presentation of the day, brought to you, the Utilizing the Connect Motion Sensing, brought to you by Dan Cutler and Randy Belcher.
If you missed it today, you couldn't make it, didn't want to come out of bed, just stay tuned and we'll catch you up on all of that.
Yes, we have plenty more, and we are all counting down right now to the 2 o'clock at the top of the hour. We're going to be bringing you live from the Campus Center the Irani debate. This was one of the major events listed for Quest, and we'll be bringing you to that right at the top of the hour.
All right, and we have the keynote speaker. What time is he coming on again?
I believe he's coming on, I think he was at 1 actually. I think he already
and
went.
that's from political science. So.
Yes, Dr. Bruce Altshuler gave the keynote. I think that was at 1 o'clock.
Are we going to have coverage of that?
I'm not sure. We'll have to see how the day unfolds.
All right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back, and the countdown will continue. Here we are, WTOP 10 Quest Day coverage. We'll be right back.
Hey Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil. Above all, be positive. We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy, coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Hey.
Ready to go?
Yeah, but the fire's not out.
Close enough.
Close enough? If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. I mean, the next thing you know, you've torched our whole neighborhood.
Which is why we're not going anywhere?
Exactly. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
All right, welcome back to WTOP 10 Quest Day coverage. Already an exciting day so far.
It is indeed. We have a lot of great talent out there.
That's right. We are counting down right now to the top of the hour. We're going to have the live Irani debate coming from upstairs in the campus center. But until then, we're going to go to, one of the communications ones. This is one that I actually had the privilege of attending earlier today. It's about the commercialization of Thanksgiving.
All right, so let's check that out, done by Adam Wolf.
All right, let's take a look.
Titans, they frequently act as mistresses to Zeus and his brothers and have godlike children. Why am I telling you this? What does this have to do with magazine media? Well, it is the basis for the phrase, the Seven Sisters. And in magazine media, we have Seven Sisters. These are a series of women's magazines marketed towards women, and they end up being a large portion of the magazine market. In my study, I looked at Redbook, Women's Day, and Good Housekeeping. McCall stopped publishing in 2002, so there's only 6 sisters because they killed that other one. Also, there are 7 sisters in oil companies. We're not going to focus on that. Again, these were the covers of the issues that I studied, and you can see right here we've got some commercialization of Thanksgiving in that they're trying to sell you the magazine. So what exactly did I do? Let's talk about methodology, and actually before that I'll tell you how this is going to proceed. We're going to talk about methodology, and we're going to show some results. After that, we're going to look at some trends in the data, and we're going to make some comparisons to Valentine's Day, which is a study I did last year using the same methodology. So this was a content analysis. What I did was read through all of these magazines and look for references to Thanksgiving in any form. So that could be just a picture, that could be a use of the word Thanksgiving, the word turkey is highly related to Thanksgiving, so something like that even. And what I took down for all those instances was the magazine it was in, the page, whether it was in an ad or editorial content, the grade of commercialization, and we'll get to that in a second, and a summary of the instance. So I have a big spreadsheet with all these instances. Grades of commercialization proceeded like this, 0 being the least commercialized and 4 being the most commercialized. But I'm going to show you some examples now. So grade 0 is considered an innocuous mention of Thanksgiving. It's not related to commerce at all, and there's no commercialized value to it. So in this example, we have, I believe this was in Women's Day, where they say if you have dull knives and you need to sharpen your knives to carve the turkey, you can scrape it against terracotta, which I found to be a very helpful tool. But it's not trying to sell you terracotta. It's not trying to sell you knives. It's just an interesting tool. It's an innocuous mention of Thanksgiving. This is a casual allusion to commerce, or what was counted as grade 1. So there were a lot of recipes around Thanksgiving, as you might imagine. And recipes counted as grade 1 because they sort of exhort you to buy these products, but they don't say so in so many words. Not a strong reference. Anyway, this looks terrible, by the way. I would never drink this. Grade 2 is kind of the most fun. It's the use of a reference to Thanksgiving with a link to a product, especially if they give info about the product, especially the price of the product. And so this one I find particularly fun. 'Tis the season to smile, it's Thanksgiving by Crest. I don't know why, but they're linking the two ideas. I think people judge you on your smile at Thanksgiving, so you should buy Crest. Grade 3 contained a call to action. So this was typical of grade 3 responses. There aren't actually a lot of these. People, I don't think, like to be exhorted to do action very often. So there weren't a lot of these in the data. But anyway, asking you, what do you do for Thanksgiving dinner? Go to our Facebook page. You better bet there are going to be ads on their Facebook page. And this is grade 4. This is out and out the most commercialized you can get. It's a product information plus a call to action. So here we have McCormick, giant picture of a turkey. The other 304 days, explicit reference to Thanksgiving. Buy our product. Here's a bunch of information for what you can do it for. Here's what it looks like, So that's grade 4. Does anybody need clarification at this point? Everybody's got it? Good. So these are the results. And again, I looked through all these magazines and took down all these instances. I had 103 observations, and 45% from Good Housekeeping, the rest from the other 2 magazines. Ads or editorials? This was an interesting question. Did more of the content come from ads or editorials? So who is commercializing Thanksgiving? And it turns out a very small percent comes from ads. Under 15% in every magazine. So if you look at the overall, editorial accounts for 83% of the references to Thanksgiving. And that includes even the uncommercial references or the grade 0 references. Ads by grade, or I'm not sorry, references by grade, I should say. So these are for all 3 magazines. These go from light to dark. So grade 0
Welcome back.
is the
If you're
lightest
just
color,
joining us, I'm Samantha DiMascio.
And I'm Barry Wygel.
And we're here covering the Quest Day 2012.
That's right. We're currently looking in at Adam Wolf's presentation. He did it on the commercialization of the holiday of Thanksgiving. And he compared a bunch of different magazines and different advertisements and editorials that were in them.
It's interesting to see the different strategies that they use that you don't usually pick up on. Even the Crest toothpaste you pointed out, that was an interesting one.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure what that has to do
what
with
says Thanksgiving more than Crest? So. All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour, and as soon as the debate happens, we'll bring that to you live. But until then, let's dip back into Adam Wolf's presentation.
McCormick will be responsible if Thanksgiving is ever commercialized further for the further commercialization of Thanksgiving. Because in the grade 4 advertisements, there were 12, and 6 of those, half exactly, were from the company McCormick. And these were in every magazine I saw. These people are very, very widely responsible for commercializing Thanksgiving as it has been commercialized. Ads like this and that appear all over, several times actually, in the same magazine, often with very little change between the words. So buy that around Thanksgiving if you want to prove something to them. Anyway, let's make some comparisons to Valentine's Day. Both started as small religious holidays, but they've obviously evolved over the last century. And on Valentine's Day, ads versus editorial, ads made up 26%, which is quite a bit larger than the Thanksgiving Day percentage. The Valentine's Day study had a very sort of small group of observations. It was a little over 50, so it wasn't able to run through anything interesting statistically. But let's look at them by grade now. So in Valentine's Day, and these work in the reverse order now, so the lightest ones are the least commercial. I couldn't figure out how to do this in PowerPoint. Anyway, the lightest ones are, sorry, the most commercial. You had 23% being of the most commercial category and 43% being of the least commercial. But when you look at ads by grade side by side, you'll see that the most commercial category tends to be a bit larger for Valentine's Day than Thanksgiving. And that doesn't mean that the least commercial category shrunk very much. It actually didn't. But the variations between 1, 2, and 3 tended to get a lot different. Does everybody understand that so far? So we can move forward? Good? Yeah. So at this point, we could probably say that Valentine's Day is a little more commercial than Thanksgiving, looking at the data. So why is that? Why is Thanksgiving relatively uncommercialized when compared to Valentine's Day? This could be an underrepresentation in our data of the subliminal message sent by the color orange. When I looked at the magazines for Thanksgiving, a lot of them tended to just incorporate orange in ways that you never saw orange before in the magazines before that. Lots of just orange text everywhere. And I don't know if that was an explicit reference to Thanksgiving, which is why I never counted it. Could be just a reference to the fact that it's autumn. But if it was a way of commercializing Thanksgiving and I didn't count it, then it would skew our data, obviously. But there are fewer market myths associated with Thanksgiving than for Valentine's Day. So a lot of the research on Valentine's Day shows that it works by raising female expectations of what's supposed to happen on that holiday, and then men have to rise to the occasion to meet these expectations. And that's done mostly through commerce, the giving of gifts or the going out to events, right? On Thanksgiving, the only really myth that I could think of or saw in research was that you just have to serve good food. You have to get the family together and serve food. The food shouldn't kill anyone. Valentine's Day, again, works with notions of perfection and compliance. You have to get the right gift, and you have to meet this duty that you have as a male towards females. On Thanksgiving, you have a robust emphasis on family together, so to get the family together, or you have to be together. And Valentine's Day also has a network of complex romantic relationship signaling, meaning that it's very important if you get someone a gift or what gift you give them, which is again handled through commerce. And Thanksgiving doesn't have that. They just have simple child-family narratives, which you see a lot in the magazines. Of the idea is you have to teach children that family is important. You have to get them together for Thanksgiving. A lot of times when you read in the magazines why people are doing Thanksgiving, they explicitly mention we're doing this for Thanksgiving. So here's the big reason I think that commercialization hasn't really hit Christmas as much. I'm sorry, Thanksgiving as much. Because Christmas is the holiday that comes right after it. And a lot of the commercialization in these magazines,
all right, you're watching Adam Wolf talk about the commercialization of Thanksgiving, and currently he's comparing Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day in the media.
Yeah, there was no surprise that the commercialization for Valentine's Day, as far as ads go, are higher than that of Thanksgiving. As important as it is to have a nice spread at the table for your family, it's a little bit more important that you have the perfect gift for your significant other on Valentine's Day, and ads have a lot to do with that.
And he said another thing behind it was Thanksgiving is so close to Christmas that everything just gets eclipsed.
Oh yeah, it's all in together.
All right, so we're being told by our crew on the scene we're under 10 minutes away from the debate right now, so until then, we'll check back in with Adam Wolf.
Of the social emphasis on Black Friday.
Yes.
Do you believe that there's going to come a point where Christmas is actually going to eclipse Thanksgiving in the pre-Thanksgiving season? Where it's going to be Christmas, by the way, Thanksgiving?
I can't speak to that directly, but what I can say is what you did see when I was looking at a lot of the Thanksgiving magazines was a big emphasis on advertising aimed at Christmas. Lots of ornaments, lots of big red boxes, lots of pictures of trees and snowflakes. So it seems that that might be happening, as well as there were a lot of references to Black Friday that I observed, and this is just me remembering them now. I didn't actually document these. But Black Friday tended to be treated with an interesting kind of treatment. It was, a lot of times it was, you know, Black Friday, get out there and buy your gifts, and that came from advertisements. But a lot of the references to Black Friday in editorial were explicitly negative. Don't go to Black Friday. You'll spend more money than you need to. It's not worth your time. So there tends to be a tension between the editorial and the ad content there. Dr. Moore.
The division between editorial and ads, do you think that some of the quote-unquote editorial content is really thinly disguised ad? You know, when you have an editorial that talks about how to cook the perfect Thanksgiving dinner, it's not an ad.
You're right.
But it's still selling the idea of...
Exactly. And there were a lot of editorials that were like that were counted as editorials. They were counted as references to Thanksgiving. And if you're saying it's just how to, for instance, Good Housekeeping had like a, oh my God, it was like 10-page long thing about Ina Garten and like how she cooks Thanksgiving on this whole interview about her life history of Thanksgiving. I like Ina Garten and I found this to be tedious. But that, you know, that counted as casual allusion to commerce. So there was another tension between editorial and ads in that, yes, a lot of magazine content, it's hard to decipher whether it's ads or editorial, but magazines, especially these magazines, did a good job of, when it was advertisement that looked like editorial, they just put promotional or they put advertisement at the top. And so I tended to follow that guy. If it said advertisement at the top, I counted it as advertisement, otherwise it was editorial.
I was wondering whether you found any interesting challenges while you were doing your content analysis, like stuff that you came across in your
All right, take a look here. Our live crew is on the scene and getting ready for the debate. We'll bring that to you as soon as possible.
What's there? And so I was thinking, like, should I even start documenting Christmas stuff? Because earlier on in the planning of the study, I thought, you know, I'm not going to tackle Christmas. It's way too commercial. Can't do it. But there were a couple interesting cases where, like, is this a 1 or is this a 0? You don't know where the real casual allusion to commerce starts. Tended to be just a couple cases. So those terms were structured before, but the structure wasn't perfect. Other questions?
When did these magazines come out? Did they come out?
Oh, yes, I should mention this. These were all the 2011 issues. For the Valentine's Day study, it was the February issue of the magazines that I studied, and for the Thanksgiving, it was the November issue.
And when does the issue actually hit the stands?
It hits earlier in November. Yeah, it's like the beginning of November. And then the beginning of February, obviously. So that would be the prime time. And if you looked at the magazines before and after, there was no content that referenced these holidays.
Did their Christmas issues come out? They're basically, aren't they not the last week of November, right? When Thanksgiving, I mean, it's pretty close that they're already on their Christmas.
Yeah, they're really ignoring Thanksgiving by this point. Okay, thank you.
All right, so that was a great presentation from Adam Wolf. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have live coverage for the Irani debate here in Campus Center. Stay tuned, you're watching the coverage of Quest Day 2012.
Hey Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil, above all, be positive. We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy, coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Hey.
Ready to go?
Yeah, but the fire's not out.
Close enough.
Huh. Close enough. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. I mean, the next thing you know, you've torched our whole neighborhood.
Which is why we're not going anywhere?
Exactly. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to the WTOP 10 2012 Quest Day coverage.
I'm Samantha DiMascio.
And I'm Barry Wygel. We are gearing up for the live debate, which looks to be about underway. I know a little bit about this debate. It's going to be a parliamentary-style debate, which not really something we see a lot here. And we had to do a special lesson in class about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, this course, you have this professor for a course right now, right?
Yep, and some of you may be wondering what's up on the screen. There's actually going to be a judge Skyping in who's going to be judging the debate and letting which side wins. So it's going to be two sides arguing, and they're going to decide who the winner is.
All right, how neat.
All right, so let's take a look in. Let's see if they're ready.
But he will make some remarks at the start, and then he's going to make some remarks.
Okay, and then during that time, if everyone can just, remain as quiet as you can.
Yeah, what I'll do when the debate's going on is I will just mute my microphone on this end.
Perfect.
And then that way I can just shoot you guys. And then when it's time to give comments, I'll be back live with you.
I agree. Talk, Steve. All right.
All right, 1 second. Step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
All right. All right, is Steve a doc too, or no? He's a doc. What? He's a doctor in rhetoric and communications. His debate team just came in 3rd in the nation. Pretty good. He knows where else he speaks. All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. That's what he's doing at. So if I come up here, St. John's facilities look pretty shitty. Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. That's where he is. So I want to just make a few remarks and introduce. All right. The members of the opposition to government.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. So long.
He came to class the other day.
Already so nervous.
Hey, he's waiting for Stevie.
It might be
I haven't met a
speech to
speaker
be
yet.
a doctor, and you're more nervous about this.
You gotta try Stevie. Yes, you
Yeah, you fall on time?
No. I was gonna take calls in the middle of it. I figured my fans on YouTube watching this would wanna know.
Is it going on YouTube?
You told me something you copy and put it.
No.
Girl, you black shit.
I will kill you.
Freezes up. Freezes up. Quest Day. Quest Day of 2012. Get on the school website too.
I'll kill you.
I've never had a class in here. What?
I was on the table.
Pump doc? Ready to see some good old-fashioned American debating? Sure. I'm ready. I'm ready to
Just
see.
tell him to shut up.
Well, I think we're gonna do a better job in the debates, the debates that's on the TV between presidential candidates, where all the questions are already picked out for you in advance.
My hands are sweating and you're all over you.
Our whole argument's based on what you do. Yeah, like if you mess up, freeze up, there's no way we can come back from that.
You're so mean.
All right, just to give the viewers a little bit of preview of what's going on here, the first speaker is going to come up and present his argument, and the opposition, which will be sitting on the other side of your screen, will be allowed to ask questions during the presentation, and then they will go up, give their counter rebuttal, and I believe they each have 7 minutes for their presentations.
What's up, Steve?
Back.
You're back? Let's get it started, huh? You say who's back?
Yep.
All right, Steve, we're gonna get started.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Now I'd like to thank everybody for coming here to discuss these matters of grave import. I'd like to thank SUNY Oswego for making Quest Day possible, Dr. Jack Gelflin for his generous awards that he will be presenting, and also to Dr. Steve Alano from St. John's University, who graciously consented to be here and to observe and to remark upon this debate. And I'm going to ask for some comments by him just before we get started in a minute. But I'd like to introduce the members of the opposition, and these are all students from my class. Members of the opposition are Elise Gross and Michael Sweeney and Sean Michael. And for the members of the government will be Patrick Sheridan, Matt Scott, and Dominic Brencher. And the format we will follow is a parliamentary style debate, which means that it will go government opposition, 6 times, 6 minutes apiece. And after the first minute, I'm going to pound on my hammer, and the member of the opposite team can rise and ask a question. When I pound my hammer twice, they will not be allowed to ask any more questions. In the 2 rebuttal phases, there will be no questions allowed. So at this time, Dr. Lano, if you would care to make some comments more elaborating on what parliamentary debate is and how important debate is to our society, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you, Oswego University, and everyone out there. I will try to readjust my camera so you can see me better. How's that? Pretty good. Yeah, my name is Dr. Steve Young.
All right, so Dr. Gaber Hardy just gave an introduction there to the presentation, and right now the judge, and I missed his name, but from St. John's University, he's giving some rules. So pretty soon the pro position and the opposition position will get up and give their opening arguments.
Why do we do it? Point of it. And I think that the most simple way to think about this is argumentation is something that happens naturally. We find ourselves in arguments all the time. We start arguments sometimes because either we think we're right or we're being a jerk or whatever. And then sometimes we find ourselves in arguments when we'd rather not be there. For example, in many of the audiences, when you realize the grade that you have in your mind for your course is not the one that you're getting, you may go to your professor and be involved in an argument about whether or not this grade represents justice or some other elaborate concept that you pull out of your back pocket to defend yourself. Debate, a tool to teach us how to manage disagreement. I don't think it could be said better than that. Debate is a tool to help us manage disagreement and help us manage the world of arguments that we find ourselves in. Parliamentary debate is something that has been around a long time, and it is the format of debate that the World Championships conduct in. So there are many types of debate. Most American textbooks will deal with the American format of debate, or the American style of debating, which is policy debating. That's what this program is to do. I'll move the camera so you see behind us. This is our debate. This is our debate high performance research facility to you live from. We do a lot of remote events from here on Skype and other places. So a lot of tropes are from American politics. Now we do parliamentary debate, and it's global, and there's a world championships every year, and we regularly debate teams from all over the world here at St. John's, and also go overseas. I would say the value of debate is not necessarily found in, there's a defensive debate that you've probably heard, that is, debate helps you prepare for the civic, it helps you gauge in politics, it helps you engage in the world in a spirited and aware way, it teaches you critical reasoning, all these things. I don't know where I come down on that stuff. I think there might be a little of that. But I think more importantly, more immediately, debate confronts you with the limitations of your own subjectivity. What I mean by that is you find out very quickly in debate how very, very difficult it is to get what's in here, out through here, and into someone else's ear. This challenge we face as human beings is to here, here, and into here, in some reasonably similar way to the way we think it's sent to. That's the most difficult fix, is your limits of a human being, is how impossible, how desperate we are to communicate with each other. And I think that's the real value of debate. So, that's all I have to say. I'll have to say more, I think, but I'm very interested to see what we put together. So thank you for me and my digital form to campus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wano. In this day and age, when we're diluted by all kinds of information, it's so important to be critical. And you gave us a lot of good reasons to value debate. So we should get down to it then. And it just dawned on me that I forgot to mention what the motion is. And the government position is going to argue that this House holds that the United States of America should attack Iran. The United States of America should attack Iran. And the opposition will oppose that motion. So, we shall start. So I shall invite the Prime Minister, the first Speaker of the government, to step forward and present your case. Give me a chance.
All right, so right now the first speaker is getting up, and he is the fictional Prime Minister, and he is arguing that the government should attack Iran.
All right, we're ready to listen to what you have to say, Dominic.
Thanks for coming out today. Obviously, the military is really important to Iran. And as a member of the military myself, formerly, I can tell you that one of the biggest missions of the military is to keep as many people safe in the military as it can. And with Iran, I can tell you, as little as a week ago, I was on the opposite side of this issue, arguing that we shouldn't invade Iran. And that was my opinion. But the overwhelming evidence that we've seen recently has shown me, and if it can change my opinion, I think it could change anyone's opinion, that we should attack Iran because they are a grave threat to everyone. And basically, Iran continues to make steady progress on its nuclear program. And the international community, led by the US, has increasingly imposed tough sanctions on Iran, but these include European bans on oil and other things like that. The world has hoped that Iran would negotiate away from its programs that continue to enrich uranium, but they haven't. And it's highly unlikely that they will do so in the future, according to Matt Crony, who is an international fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, so he pretty much knows what he's talking about. He said it's not going to happen. They're not going to stop doing the nuclear enrichment. In the coming months, the U.S. might be forced to choose between simply letting Iran have nuclear weapons or conducting a military strike designed to prevent that from happening. And Mr. Crony, as well as our team, believes that the options are awful. Nobody wants to invade Iran if we don't have to. But faced with the kind of decision that we are faced with, the U.S. should decide to strike against Iran. Basically, nuclear-armed Iran poses a grave threat to international peace and security, like I said just a second ago. Iran currently restrains its foreign policy only because it fears retaliation from the U.S. and the country of Israel. With nuclear weapons, Iran will be emboldened by the confidence that it can engage in provocation and use its nuclear weapons to deter the worst kinds of retaliation. And a more aggressive Iran is going to increase its support to terrorists, like it already does, engage in tougher coercive diplomacy, and that means that we might be faced with having to appease or do something even worse. Now, obviously, it didn't work too well in the Second World War with Hitler or anything like that. Nuclear weapons in Iran will cause global nuclear proliferation, which we've been trying to get rid of the last couple of years, for decades now. And other states in the Middle East are going to want their own nuclear weapons now that Iran has theirs in response. Iran is going to provide uranium enrichment technologies to its friends, our enemies in the area, and the global non-proliferation regime is only going to be weakened. Nuclear Iran could threaten nuclear war, and basically developments contrary to its interests. Anything that they don't like, they're going to threaten to go to war upon. Because they have nuclear weapons. They're not afraid of any of the big powers anymore. And that's really dangerous in the hands of somebody like Ahmadinejad. Yeah?
Are you saying they currently have nuclear weapons?
No, we're saying that when they do, we believe they're going to have them soon because they're getting very close. In 2010, they were at 20% of their uranium enrichment. They only need 90% to be completely done. And the end process tends to spiral and pick up faster. So we think they're going to have them very soon. Thank you. Basically, Iran, the nuclear balance between Iran and its adversaries would be less stable than the one between the U.S. and Russia in the Cold War. And that's going to destabilize the whole region. These future crises, they could spiral out of control, and it could end in a nuclear exchange between Iran and Israel, which is the worst case scenario. We're talking about millions of lives versus a quick strike to end the whole thing before it even happens, costing very few lives. And that's our main point. It's not a great option, but it's the best option we have. It's the lesser of two evils. 20% of the world's oil flows from the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran can easily control if it wants to. Iran chokes off the strait, the U.S. economy is going to take a nosedive. And we depend on that oil. 84% of Americans believe that Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons. As a democracy, if 84% of our people believe that, that's something that we can't take lightly. Basically, 56% of Americans think a strike against Iran is a good idea if we find evidence of nuclear weapons, which we have been finding a lot of evidence that they're trying to get nuclear weapons. And in two new International Peace Institute polls show nuclear weapons programs show that support of nuclear weapons is large among Iranians. So obviously, if they're supporting it in their own country, they want to have it. The poll shows basically 55% of Iranians oppose current Western policies. They hate what we're doing. 9/10 of Iranians are now hostile towards Americans. This is a 40% increase over just the last couple of years. 55% are hostile towards Europeans, and 60% favor Ahmadinejad and his current policies, which are basically to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And I mean, that basically says right there, they want to have nuclear weapons. They want to wipe out Israel. And if Israel feels threatened, they're going to strike first. And that's what we're trying to avoid, because Israel is not going to restrain itself like we are. They're going to strike nuclearly, and then we're going to have a huge war.
All right, that banging noise you heard in the background was actually the 6-minute warning mark. He has 7 minutes to give his opening argument.
To avoid a full-out war, we're saying again, this quick strike into Iran, to attack Iran, is the lesser of two evils, the best option we have on the table. And that will take out their most threatening aspects and keep the world safe and secure for everyone. Thank you.
All right. I thank Dominic Brencher for his remarks, and now I'm going to welcome the next debater for the leader of the opposition, Ms. Elise Gross, to offer her outline.
Thank you, Harvey. Welcome back to the WTOP 10 Quest Day 2012 coverage. Right now you're looking at the Irani debate here in Campus Center.
Yes, the opening arguments were just given by Dominic Brencher, and now Elise Gross, the head of the opposition, is speaking. So let's go back to that right now.
They need to enrich it to 80% in order to make a nuclear warhead. And Iran, in order to make a nuclear warhead, which they're not at all. My second point, since 1968, when Iran was introduced into the Nuclear and Non-Proliferation Treaty, Iran has never been in violation for the amount of uranium that they've had, though they were found to be in violation of safeguards in December of 2003. Since then, Iran has signed a contract with the UN allowing sanctions in their 5 nuclear sites and 3 uranium mines, and allow for random searches for the UN to come in anytime that they want. So it's obvious that Iran has nothing to hide. What are they hiding if they're going to sign a contract like this? What we need to do is look at ourselves. If we're going to try and say, let's go in and take over, we're the ones that are actually in violation of this treaty. We have way too many nuclear weapons right now, and since being in violation of this treaty, we have not only increased the amount of nuclear weapons that we've had, but we've modernized them. Should Iran really be our issue when we have issues of our own to take control of?
Question.
Not right now. My third point, over the history of Iran's existence, they have never attacked anyone. If you could answer my question and give me one instance where Iran has ever attacked anyone, where they've ever been this big of a threat, I would love to hear it. Yes?
Last invasion was 80 years ago.
Okay.
Iran invaded another country. And to respond to the other point, nuclear weapons, Iran has an unstable government that's controlling their program. We don't. That's why we think they're a threat. If Ahmadinejad has his way, he bombs Israel and wipes them off the face of the earth. That's why we think it's bad to have nuclear weapons with them. We're a stable government.
But they don't have any nuclear weapons right now. We're allowed to go in and we can search all we want, and we do, and we've never found anything. Not right now. So my closing point, why is it our job, why is it the Americans' job to go in and invade this country when our president, the Prime Minister of Israel, and Iran have all agreed on negotiations? On March of 2012, the global powers accepted an offer from Iran for negotiations. And in April of 2012, this month, Obama, and I said, I quote, "We do believe that there is still a window that allows for diplomatic resolution to this issue." And Obama said this with the Prime Minister of Israel right next to his side, who did not oppose his comment. So why should we invade when everyone, why should we invade when everyone on this issue wants to talk negotiations?
The exchange you just saw in these opening rounds, the other candidate that is not talking has the ability to ask questions, and the speaker at the time can either accept or deny those questions. So the opposition party just wrapped up, and now the counter rebuttal is getting up there. But I think before that, are we going to go to break, or are we going to stay on here? Okay. I think we're taking a break.
Send it over to a break. We'll be right back. Keep it right here.
Talking about why we should go to war with Iran, and why we need to take military action.
Hey Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil. Above all, be positive. We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy, coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Hey.
Ready to go?
Yeah, but the fire's not out.
Close enough.
Close enough? If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. I mean, the next thing you know, you've torched our whole neighborhood.
Which is why we're not going anywhere?
Exactly. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
If you were sleeping in this morning because you didn't come down, don't worry, WTOP is on right now, so don't be a clown. A Quest Day-filled show is what's on our agenda, but jot down some notes about what we're gonna send you. Oh, we know you really needed to do that response for some extra credit, so come down to pick up some coffee and donuts. They're free. I'm willing to bet it. With some presentations on Facebook and a balloon launch at 4, hopefully they won't make you run out the door. So if you can't make it, I forgive you, I'll say, but make sure you tune in and watch Sammy and Barry now with these highlights from Quest Day.
All right, so dipping in now. We just had the counter rebuttal from the government, and now the opposition party is going to get up and give their counter rebuttal. Let's take a listen.
No new points can be made. So I'd like to invite the member of the opposition for his remarks.
All right, thank you everyone.
First off, I'd like to touch on a point that was made. 84% of Americans believe Iran is trying to develop weapons. This could possibly be because the Pentagon Chief Administrator, Mike Mullen, claimed that Iran already had 50 nuclear weapons, which is not true. So this is the American people being falsely influenced by people in power. Second, it was stated that Iran wants to wipe Israel off the map. Even if this was true, it'd be nearly impossible, seeing how Israel already has over 200 warheads. And if Iran were to make a warhead, as we are being told by the government, they'd have one warhead. Do you really think one warhead could do much good against 200? And of the 200 warheads, Israel is already aiming at least half at Iran in precaution. And they stated how once you begin developing uranium and enriching uranium, that you can, the process speeds up to become into a nuclear warhead. Well, that's true, but at certain nuclear sites, Russia actually takes away the spent fuel, which is potentially used to make the core of the nuclear weapon. At other sites, the UN is under the UN has 24-hour international inspection. Excuse me. At one of the particular sites, Parchin, that's been considered a hotspot. In 2005, there was an inspection conducted thoroughly where nothing was found, and they haven't seen it to make a point to go back. Not at this time. Israel's in no possession of Iran is in no possession of nuclear weapons. And not only is the U.S. refusing to do business with Iran's central bank, but they are penalizing foreign financial institutions that do. So the point was made with China and Russia, but they're still being penalized by the U.S. in that economic state. Matt?
Going off of that, what you're saying about the sanctions that are working or that are currently in effect, obviously are not working the way that they're designed to work. So
how are they designed to work?
They were designed to cripple the government itself.
So kind of like a bullying technique onto Iran, not letting them operate freely as a nation or really let them take over. You stated that Iran had invaded 80 years ago. I was just curious who they invaded. We didn't come across that.
They invaded some of their Middle Eastern neighbors. I'm not exactly sure which countries. They were different borders at that time.
Okay.
But basically, we were going to say, in response to the other point, the sanctions were designed to let us inspect their nuclear program to make sure they don't have nuclear weapons.
And it's
they've never
us, the United States?
Full access. They've never given us full access to their sites, so we don't know if they really do or not.
Is us the United States or the UN?
United States and the UN, both.
Isn't the United States part of the UN?
It is.
So it's
both.
just the UN?
No,
okay.
it's both. It's both the UN and the United
Excuse
States.
me. So really it comes down to the U.S. being more of a bullying effect towards Iran, trying to use their world power or their dominance in the world market to cut them off economically. And you know, the UN sanctions not only make it harder for them to acquire technology and finance for nuclear activity, which clearly means the sanctions weren't developed to cripple the government, but to just take away this nuclear activity, which also I believe was brought up how Iran is abundant in fossil fuels. As we all know, fossil fuels run out. Maybe nuclear energy is a long-term answer. Should we really not allow Iran to explore nuclear energy, which may be the answer in 50 to 100 years, just because they have fossil fuel now? In closing this, I think it's clear to see that the state of hysteria that the U.S. has become in, not only in regard to Iran, but, excuse me, when you look at each individual nuclear site, they're under inspection by the UN. Most are, I believe, not most, I believe 3 are not even finished yet that are already under inspection. And there was an article in the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, that states, I believe it's Article 42, that Iran only has to give 60 days notice before operation of a plant to tell them the intentions of it, I believe. And that's about it. That's where we stand on the situation. And we don't think invading Iran is best for not only the United States or for the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Michael Sweeney, for your remarks. And now we'll get to the rebuttal stage. And so the final remarks will be made by Mr. Patrick Sheridan.
Okay, first off, I want to mention that he was talking about the site at Parchin. In 2003 was the last time they were allowed to inspect there. February 22nd, 2012, the International Atomic Committee left there after doing inspections. They were very disappointed. The UN immediately told Iran to stop what they were doing. They've not responded. And one of the main things was Parchin. They were not allowed to go to the Parchin site and inspect, because in 2003 when they were there, they found a steel room that they can use to explode things in, and that was the thing that they're using to test the nuclear triggers. And they weren't allowed to go there, and so that's when they kicked up the sanctions. And I mean, as far as sanctions go, what they switched to now are what they call smart sanctions, and they're supposed to only target certain things that will only affect the military and the government. As of right now, the first thing they targeted was Iran's oil and gas industry, which accounts for 1/4 of Iran's GDP right off the bat. And that's going to hurt more of the poor people than it is the rich people. The governments and the military are usually insulated from this problem of sanctions. And also by doing, the oil and the gas, that accounts for 80% of Iran's government's income. And 25% of the GDP is subsidies from Iran's government that go to housing, food, and gas. So by taking that away, you're technically bankrupting the whole state. And the powers that be aren't going to suffer, it's going to be everyone else. And by them suffering, it makes them back their government even more. Things that are sanctioning it's called Bank Malad. They have 25,000 employees, and they facilitate financial transactions for the military entities, is what they said. They have 1,800 branches, and by shutting them down, it basically shuts down their banking. It'd be similar to shutting down Chase Manhattan, because they do business with Sikorsky that makes helicopters that were sold to Russia. It freezes billions of dollars of assets, and that their country can't operate. And the second thing that they did was the Islamic Republic of Iran shipping lines. They shut that down because they do shipping for the military. They do shipping for everything else. They bring in humanitarian aid, food, everything for these people. And 1/3 of Iran's GDP is exports. So by shutting that down, that also cripples their economy. In May 2011, inspectors found highly sophisticated nuclear triggering technology, and the only purpose for that is to set off a nuclear device. The stuff that they found is uranium deuteriide. It's an atomic trigger. An atomic trigger. It has no peaceful use. And that also shows a connection between a rogue Pakistani engineer, Abdul Qadir Khan. He sold nuclear devices, or nuclear information to Tehran. Yeah.
How do we fund this attack on Iran with the current U.S. debt at $15.7 trillion?
No questions to debate.
Oh, there.
For this is the final speech. No questions are allowed.
Well, I'll answer that. If we do it now, it's going to be small. It's going to be like some drone planes go in and attack the sites. But as of February, they're moving all their nuclear stuff down underground now, so it's going to be harder for us to get. They know that they're coming. We're giving them time to back that up. We're giving them time to build this.
No, you got 3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes? Okay. Let me see what else do I have here. Iran has been very defiant in the face of economic sanctions.
All right, so they're wrapping up the debate here. Right now, the final arguments from the government and then the final arguments from the oppositions. No questions are allowed during this period.
Is total and unconditional support of Israel. There was a press release that said at the end of the day, there is no closer ally than Israel.
Excuse me, Patrick. For the rebuttal phase, you can't bring in new pieces of information. You can only respond to claims that was made by the opposition. So are you responding to a claim that was made by the opposition?
We were talking about Israel as being our ally.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that we're backing that up. That's our official stance. It says at the end of the day, there's no closer ally than Israel.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to abandon Israel, and that's unwavering. We have to back them up. And if we don't do it now, and they do get a nuclear device, probably the city that they're going to strike would be Tel Aviv, which has a population of nearly 500,000 people. And then in response to that, I believe that Israel would attack Tehran, which has a population of 8.5 million. So and most of those people are going to be innocent lives. They're not going to be people in the military. They're going to be women and children, and not to mention the ecological problems that will raise from a nuclear strike. Like all those areas will be uninhabitable for many, many years. Let's see. Yeah, and all their data is old. The 2.5% uranium enrichment, that's from 2003. So 2008, they already said that they were going to 20%. And once they get to 20%, it takes exponentially less centrifuges and time to get it to 90%, which is what they need for a nuclear device. Yeah, the only time that they've stopped, like, with any threat was in 2003 after we invaded Iraq. That's the first time that they ever stopped their nuclear program, and that's when Libya actually gave up, because they knew that we were coming. You know, they knew that we were there, and if they didn't do what we said that we were going to attack them. You know, now we're just giving them more time to finish this. It's only a matter of time before they do get their own. And I mean, it's my belief and our team's belief that they will use it. You know, that's why they're building it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sheridan. Now for the final rebuttal, I'd like to remind the government that no questions are allowed in knowing bring information to contest the claims that have previously been made. So, Mr. Sean, assume you're ready.
All right, thank you guys for all being here today. First, I want to go over some of the points that these guys made about attacking Iran. The first one is you guys said lesser of two evils. Are you saying that lives need to be lost for this problem to be resolved? Because I think that's completely absurd. If you look at the two most recent wars the U.S. has engaged in, Iraq, 66,000 civilians were killed, and over 109 deaths altogether occurred. And I don't think that's necessary. As well, look at Afghanistan. Tens of thousands of casualties happened, and I think there's a way to resolve that. The second thing is, you guys said 84% of American people believe Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons. And maybe this is because Pentagon Chief Administrator Mike Mullen claimed that Iran already has so many nuclear weapons in their possession. The third thing is that they don't need nuclear power because of the amount of oil that they can use. And then you guys stated that they have a numerous amount of oil and they could use fossil fuels. But in 2012, I think we're one world. Everyone's working together, and I don't think that's necessary to harm the environment like that when they can use nuclear power. And the fourth thing is, I still don't understand why this is the U.S.'s job to attack Iran. We're a leader in the world, and I don't think it's our job to bully people and attack them and cause civilian deaths. In summarizing our points, there's ongoing negotiations between global powers and Iran, and that has occurred as late as April 14th, just a couple of days ago. They reopened negotiations with Obama and the global powers, and I think that this will resolve the issue. Iran only has 2.5% of enriched uranium when they need to enrich it up to 80% in order to make nuclear warheads. So they haven't made enough progress to cause a strike on Iran. And we are bullying Iran rather than leading. We should be leading by example, and in 2012, we are people connected through social media, through the internet, and even financial markets. And we, as a people, we need to learn how to mediate this problem without the use of weapons. And this quote, I think, summarizes this argument up best. When the best leader's work is done, people say we did it ourselves. So I think that summarizes our point. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's a good question, everyone. Good question. All right. Well, there's been a lot of interesting facts and pieces of information raised, and I think that it revolves around whose interests are best served. Will it serve the interests of the United States best to attack Iran, or will it serve Iran best to refrain from attack? So, Dr. Lano, so how would you like to do this? Would you like 5 minutes to think about it, or would you like to tell us which side had the better argument?
Well, I think one of the things that I like doing, and maybe if there are members in the audience there, those audience members would ask questions or make comments, and maybe we could get their reaction before my reaction.
All right, that sounds like a good idea. So if anybody has a remark or a comment to make, why don't you please come forward right here and make a comment here. So Mr. Brett, come on out.
I heard that both sides, and I thought that they both had great.
All right, so thank you for watching the live debate. They're going to be able to do a little bit of a question and answer period, and then we're going to go back to them live when they actually announce the winner. But first...
Welcome back. You're watching WTOP 10 coverage of Quest Day 2012. We had the opportunity to snag an interview with senior psychology major Brad Webster to talk a little bit about his presentation on multitasking behavior. I understand you did this with one other student and a faculty member, and you created an online survey. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we did an online survey with 50 participants on multitasking behavior. We took some independent variables such as personality traits, generations of birth, and we related them to multitasking behavior.
And the number of the languages they speak as well, correct?
Number of languages spoken as well, yes.
And what were the results for that?
Well, we found similar results to what was found in previous research. Basically, the generations we looked at. We found, we looked at device ownership and found that the generation of 1981 to 1985 owned the most media devices.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
We looked at specifically personality traits of neuroticism and introversion, and we found that introverts tended to engage in multitasking activities more so than extroverts. We also found that neurotics had a tougher time engaging in more than one multitasking activity at a time. As far as languages spoken, those that spoke 3 languages were more likely to engage in multitasking activities than those who spoke 1.
Okay, wonderful. What are the kind of questions people are coming around and asking you guys? What are they most interested in?
Well, there's a lot of things they're interested in. They're interested in basically...
How long did it take this process, putting everything together and doing all the research and things like that?
It's been going on for about a year.
Okay.
2 semesters.
Very nice. All right, well, he will be there from 2 to 4, so stop by with any questions that you have for Brad Webster, senior psychology major here at SUNY Oswego.
All right, we're going to send it back to the debate right now. They're going to announce a winner any second now.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
We can't, hold it, Stephen. We can't hear you. We can't hear you because you're coming in broken. Just one moment. Say something again.
He just muted it. No, he's not.
No, I unmuted it. I just muted our mic. Pardon me?
Sorry.
Can you hear us?
No.
Yes, I can.
We can hear you.
Talk a little bit slower.
All right, they're having a couple of technical difficulties there at the presentation. I think they're trying to fix them. Let's take a look.
You can type your response to us too, Steve.
Okay, well, hopefully you can hear me now. I don't know if it's clear. Can you get the signal if it's not clear? Hopefully it's clear.
If we mute our mic, try muting our mic.
Try muting our mic? All right, just a second.
So keep talking.
There.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Guys, you gotta
It might just be.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better. Just keep talking.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully you can hear me okay. Lots of feedback there. I think it was a pretty good debate. I'll start with saying that this weekend I was in Oregon for the U.S. National Championships in debating. There were 158 schools, 158 teams there, and it was a 3-day tournament. And this was one of the topics, and it was a topic I judged in the round of 32, which is an elimination round. And everybody in this debate that I just saw, you made the same arguments that those top 30 teams made, almost exactly the same. So I think that's a good thing. Here you are, just starting out, and you're at the level of the top, I guess, what would that be, out of 150, maybe the top quarter of teams in the US. I'm not very good at math. That's why I do the job I do. But if you're in the top 30 and you're just starting out, that's good. So I heard all these same arguments. The only thing that lacked between this debate and that one was development of these arguments. Everyone had lots of good facts, good information, but you never really told me what I should do with this information, right? So, for example, this debate about the 20% refinement issue. Why does this mean, on the government side, why does this mean we need to attack now? What does the world look like should they reach this point? Why would an attack, when they reach that point, not be better? Why is now the time? When it gets to be 20%, why is that bad? And there's lots of things government said that could have been developed that way, like Israel's perception, Israel's reaction. It removes U.S. diplomacy from the issue and we go to Israeli first strike. Why would that be bad? I mean, this is kind of an obvious question, but in debate, nothing is obvious. You need to explain this. On the opposition side, I think there was really a couple of really good speeches over there. The opening opposition speaker gave a very good speech, but again, what's lacking is, I don't know what to do with this. All right, so for example, she says, oh, they haven't ever attacked anyone. There's a POI about, well, 80 years ago they attacked somebody. But she says, well, you know, we can go in there and then we're attacking somebody, so who are we? Again, this is kind of an obvious point. It's bad to attack people who haven't done anything. But this needs to be said explicitly, and it needs to be explained. What would the world look like if this were the principle of action whenever we suspected that a country had committed wrong? Why should the U.S. attack versus an international body look into it? And this is sort of where the clash in the debate, or the center of the arguments, should take place. The clash of the debate is the most important thing. If you're hitting that, you're going to win the debate. So on government side, they're saying, we must strike now. Now is the key time. They're almost there. If we don't strike now, we will lose the opportunity. On the other side, they say, if we strike now and we're wrong, what does that do to the world? How does that affect global jurisprudence? How does that affect international relations? And what are the moral implications of that, as we got from the second speaker and the last speaker? How many people is it worth killing to make sure that Iran doesn't have the bomb? So on opposition side, they say, you know, it's almost like a nuclear racism argument. It's like, why are we so scared of these people? What have they done wrong? Why do we not want them to have a bomb? On the government side, they're saying, well, it's an unstable government, and we're not sure what they're going to do with it, or maybe we are very sure what they're going to do with it, but attack Israel and create global war. So I think that more development than that. I think that for the next debate you guys do, you want to think about principles of action and what the world would look like if we didn't follow them, or if we did follow them. So in government, one of the principles of action here is when people threaten you, you must threaten back. One of the principles of action is safety, security, protection, that kind of thing. On opposition, the principle of action would have to be something like nonviolence is what it sounds like, or that we do not attack countries unless they've actually done something wrong, and the evidence indicates they have not done anything wrong. The only argument that opposition missed, I think, on that I think the government rebuttal speaker pointed out, is that a lot of these things, you would not have them unless you were going to make weapons. And I think an easy answer to that opposition could have made is, this is all very circumstantial. Like, who knows why they have these things, and why is it our business anyway? And that's what one of the speakers came up with. So, in the end, I think that's what could have been done better, but I think what's really good is that you were debating at a level of information and of engagement that is at the top levels of the national circuit in the United States. So that's good. But what's missing is development and conclusion. What's the big impact? Why should I care? What principles should I follow as a judge? Endorsing, like if you want to imagine that you're speaking to the public, right? Like a
All right, welcome to WTOP 10 2012 Quest coverage. We're hitting the top of the 3 o'clock hour right now. I'm Barry Wygel.
And I'm Samantha DiMascio. Currently you're watching a live view from the Irani debate. We're still working on waiting for a decision to be made, but when that happens, we'll have you updated as soon as that happens.
The opposition case was interesting, but it was a little vaguer than the government case. I think the government is winning this debate on a couple of issues, such as the time frame and the issue that these things that they're getting seem to only be for nuclear weapons, and the destabilization of the region. I'm sympathetic to opposition's arguments about Whether or not they've got the weapons or not is questionable, and we should invade them. But I think the risk is a little too high. The government proved that, so I think I'll vote for the government team in this. If opposition had maybe developed just a little bit better, I think opposition could have won by saying we don't want to attack people who haven't done anything wrong. It's a bad principle of international relations or international justice. So that's what I thought. So you can turn the microphone back on and ask me questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve. So, I really don't have anything to add to that. I think because.
All right, so that was the Irani debate sponsored by the Public Speaking Department here on campus. The government won the debate. Those are the people that were sitting on the right side of your screen. They gave the first argument there.
All right, right now we're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to have Chris Lewin talking about censorship and the internet. Keep it right here.
All right.
Welcome back, Oswego. You're watching WTOP 10 coverage of Quest Day 2012.
And coming up next, we're going to watch a presentation on censorship in the internet. And coming up later, we have a very special video project that was made by SUNY Oswego student Jeff Newell. And I had the pleasure of watching this last night, and it is just breathtaking.
I know, you're raving about it.
I know.
Can't wait to see it.
She hasn't seen it yet, and we'll bring that to you later. But first, we're going to go to Chris Lewin and censorship and the internet.
West 12. I've got a couple of very interesting topics for you this hour. We inherited, this session inherited a 15-minute delay from the last group of speakers in this room, so we're about 15 minutes behind, which is, the good news is they actually made a mistake in the program and they have somebody listed twice at 12:30 and 12:45, so we actually have to catch up at the end of the hour. Our first speaker this hour is Chris, and then we're going to have public relations, a couple of interesting things about Facebook and grades, and then a little bit about virtual reality. So an hour of interesting talks. Chris is a sophomore broadcasting major. He created this presentation for my class, Intro to New Media. Let's see, he says he decided to choose this topic because he thought it was important. It's important to everybody who uses the internet, and it might not be something you know enough about. If you'd like to if you're on Twitter and you'd like to send him a congratulations tweet, he's at CLEWAND 12. 12. Take it away, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Once again, my name is Chris Lewin, as I said. And my presentation today is on censorship and the internet. And what I'm going to be mostly talking about is copyrighted material and the different legislation over the past 15 years that has looked into protecting those who hold copyrights and when their material gets put onto the internet, who's responsible and who needs to take a look at it, whether it's the government or the sites themselves. So right here I have 5 pieces of legislation. The oldest one is the first one, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, dating back to 1998. And I'll be going all of these throughout the entire presentation. The first 2, the Millennium Copyright Act and the Pro-IP Act, were signed into law. The Protect IP Act, Stop Online Piracy Act, also known as SOPA to most of you, and the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act are all bills that were presented to Congress in 2011. And as I said, I'll start with the U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998. And the intent behind this was to go after the individuals or groups that were actually uploading the material, the copyrighted material, online, rather than the sites themselves. The government would look into it if somebody posted, let's just say a clip from, I used this last night, a clip from the Super Bowl that NBC put on right after the game, and that's copyrighted material from NBC and the NFL Commissioner's Office. Instead of, if it was put onto YouTube, YouTube wouldn't get in trouble for that. It would be the actual individuals themselves who put it onto the file sharing sites. Now this did, as I just mentioned, YouTube. It actually allowed these websites to start popping up even more. The sites, just like YouTube, other video sharing sites, because now they knew if one individual put up a copyrighted material, they wouldn't have to worry about being prosecuted for it. It would go under that individual. And YouTube, in their own, when you create a YouTube account through Google in their terms of service, it comes up as, in the actual agreement, it says we respond to notices of alleged copyright infringement and terminate accounts of repeat infringers according to the process set out in the U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So they're giving you fair warning that they are not responsible themselves, that you are the one taking responsibility for that copyrighted material that you put online. Now, 9 years later, in 2007, and it was then brought to Congress in 2008, it was the Pro-IP Act, which is the Prioritizing Resources and Organization for Intellectual Property Act of 2008, but it was brought together in December 2007 at first. And what this did was it actually just raised the fines, almost doubling most of the fines for repeat offenders, as the repeat offenders could now be fined up to $2 million. And at first, the normal fines could range from $500 to only $50,000, but now it goes from $1,000 to $100,000 for most infractions on copyright material. But the one thing with this I want to talk about is the per work agreement, or the per work problem. And what this was is that if you were found guilty of copyright infringement, it would go down $150,000 fine per work or everything that you did. But the holders of the copyright material made the claim that if you were to sell a collection, let's just say a collection of CDs, or if they were to infringe on a collection of CDs, they would be able, the entire, let's say it was a 12-set thing, the 12-set thing would count as one work, and the maximum fine would be $150,000. Now what the copyright holders wanted, they wanted either each individual CD in that, each individual track, to go down as per work, so that the fines would be able to go into the millions of dollar range. Because what they found, or what they believed, was that people would just automatically take as much as humanly possible. And
all right, for those of you watching right now, this is Chris Lewin. He's talking about censorship in the internet. He's talking about PIPA right now, which is the Protect IP Act, and how some people want to see the punishments increases. Let's take a look back in.
So take as much as they humanly, or as much as they possibly can at one time, and then deal with the fine if they get it, but at the same time not worry about that multiple fines going well into the millions. Now we cross over into the bills, and the first one is the Protect IP Act, which is the Preventing Real Online Threats to Economic Creativity and Theft of Intellectual Property. You guys mainly know this one as PIPA, and this was from 2011 as well, and this one looked mostly into the overseas sites with copyright infringement. I know during football, hockey season, there are online sites that stream illegal content of copyrighted games, either from an NBC broadcast, a local broadcast, also from commissioners' offices, those are held through. So this is going after those overseas sites to make sure that they aren't being able to stream into the United States. It would take away the IP address. But the problem with the Protect IP Act is that people of legal sites said that this was too vague and it could actually harm their sites. And many of the top companies in this digital field actually sent a letter to Congress on November 15th, 2011. That included AOL, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Yahoo. That's just a few of them who actually sent the letter. And it's this one, in the letter they said, while we agree that online piracy is something that needs to be stopped, at the same time, this law is too vague and to be misinterpreted in many different ways. And that's the problem with the misinterpreted law, is that people can take whichever way they want, twist and contort it, and have it say, oh, well, even though you're in the United States, and this law was intended for people outside the U.S. streaming into it, and that one copyright material there, you can get into a lot of trouble with that. So there were a lot of protests against this, not just by the companies themselves, but there are different protests, as you can see, in New York City, and these protests popped up all across the country of people stating their disapproval for PIPA and for SOPA, which is the next one we'll be looking at. And SOPA is, as I said before, the Stop Online Piracy Act that gained national attention last year. And this would go against the U.S. Digital Media, or the U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998. And what this would do is actually change it to where now the sites were at fault, rather than the individual themselves. The sites would be forced to monitor their own problems, and this caused a problem to sites, as I listed there: YouTube, Facebook, Google, WordPress. Facebook, over 50 million accounts on Facebook, or sorry, 500 million accounts on Facebook. Very difficult for one site to monitor by themselves all those accounts at once, with having the constant fear of facing fines if just a handful of those accounts were to put copyright material on them. Also, WordPress.com. There was a case early last year in which one individual WordPress account was accused of child pornography charges, and under the old laws they were able to just take that one down. But this was used as an example as to what the problem with SOPA would be, is that now under SOPA this would become, it would be WordPress's responsibility because they were using WordPress. It was under the WordPress domain. So WordPress would be responsible, even though out of all the thousands of WordPress sites that there are, this one had that illegal material, illegal content on them. So if you could imagine.
All right now Chris is talking about the Stop Online Piracy Act, or SOPA, which was laid aside in Congress after some intense opposition from the public and major U.S. companies. He's talking about how right now how sites would have to monitor all the uploads that they have. And currently that slide up is the day that Wikipedia blacked out in protest of SOPA. Let's look back in.
Protest in January against SOPA, and also talking about PIPA as well. But what they did was mainly a internet blackout shutdown. So Wikipedia shut down their site for a day. Other sites like Google and Wikipedia were the two main ones that protested this, and Wikipedia had a full-on blackout. As you can see here, this was their webpage that day, the Imagine a World Without Free Knowledge. And once again, their argument was that these laws were too vague, that they could be the one responsible for somebody else's problem. But there is, right now, a proposed bill that seems like it could be a medium between the two sides of protecting online piracy and making sure the sites themselves don't get in trouble. And this is known as CISPA, or the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act. And what this does, it actually has the U.S. government and these sites both monitoring themselves. So if the sites miss somebody on let's say Facebook, misses one of their 500 million viewers posting something illegally, if the government finds out, government will send a message to Facebook, say, look, so-and-so at this time on this page posted a copyrighted video, you can now take it down, rather than automatically giving a fine to Facebook or any of these sites, YouTube as well. So these sites actually now have come back, and 28 agencies and companies, including AT&T, Facebook, Intel, Microsoft, have all sent letters to the government actually in support of CISPA rather than being against PIPA and SOPA. They feel that the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act is one in which allows them to do their job, not worry about having to be shut down, facing fines, but at the same time achieving that common goal of erasing online piracy, so they themselves don't have to worry about their copyright material being lost, or having people that they work with having their copyright material lost on their site, and also it's good for them because they don't have to worry about fines. So overall, CISPA seems right now to be the one in which everyone has a general consensus that this is probably the one that will work. Okay? Now, any questions? Yes?
So first I want to start off by saying that the way users interact on the web is a lot different from, the way we're used to back, probably about 5-10 years ago. So do you think that with the if you pass this CISPA Act, do you think that the internet will not, websites such as YouTube and Facebook won't be able to prosper as much as they have been, because that's kind of like the basis of how they became so,
I think though, right now I think they will still be able to prosper because it is that they aren't under that constant fear of having to monitor altogether. They will get suggestions from the government of when to monitor. They will look at different sites themselves, which, these sites right now currently are all monitoring their own sites. It's not like they're just letting a free-for-all go on, but it was just the fear with SOPA and PIPA that they would have to cover a large base at once. So I think right now it'd be more of the same, just more laws put into place against it.
When you were talking about copywriting and them trying to prevent the spread of copy.
All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us now, you're watching WTOP 10 coverage of Quest Day 2012. We have the opportunity now to have Professor Joe Lefevre in the studio here with us, Professor of Organic Chemistry. He worked today over the course of a good amount of time with a student, a senior organic chemistry major, on a presentation that they had today. Want to tell us a little about Kristen and what she's involved in the department, and what went into her presentation for today.
Sure. Thanks, Samantha. Kristen is a senior chemistry major, and she is working on her capstone senior research project.
Right.
This is a project that all of our chemistry majors do throughout the course of the year. They give updates every few weeks to the rest of the department on how the work is going, and then it culminates with the Quest presentation, which she gave today.
All right, fantastic. And that was about sunscreen agents, correct?
Yes, we're working on making some modified sunscreen agents. As you know, sunscreens are ubiquitous. We find them everywhere. They absorb ultraviolet radiation from the sun,
right,
and keep our skin from burning. And we're working on making some new sunscreens slightly different than the ones that are on the market. So that was her project.
And she used a microwave to enhance that today as part of her presentation, correct?
That's correct.
What kind of microwave was this?
Yeah, we use microwaves not only in heating our food up, but we can also use them in doing chemical reactions. So the idea is that we have a special microwave oven. We don't put food in it, we just use it for chemical reactions. And the idea is in normal heating of reactions, say with a hot bath or a sand bath, we have to heat the reaction vessel. We usually do these reactions in a glass round bottom flask, for example. And when we use typical heating procedures, we have to heat through the glass, heat that up first, and then we heat the solvent where we do the chemical reaction. And it's a very inefficient process when you compare it with microwave, because in microwave we don't have to worry about heating up the glass material. The microwave energy goes straight to the chemicals, and it's much more efficient. We get less byproducts, shorter reaction times, just much more efficient way to do chemistry.
And you plan on using this process in future lab experience with students, correct?
Correct. She's doing the pioneering work on making the reactions work. So hopefully we can get this to work in an undergraduate organic lab.
That's fantastic. How long did it take for this research for her? About how much time went into it?
Well, she started in September and has been continuing with it the entire year. So it's a year-long project.
Fantastic.
She has to work out all the conditions She has to heat the microwave up, ramp it up, we call it, at the right rate. She's got to keep it at the right temperature, the right wattage for the solvents that we're using. So there's a lot that goes into it, to optimizing it.
Right, absolutely. A ton of work goes into this. How was the turnout there at your presentation today?
Very good. We were in 104 Lanigan, and for most of the chemistry talks, we had half full, 3/4 full house.
Fantastic. So her hard work paid off. It was successful. All right, now we're going to take a look quickly at this presentation. We have a clip for you.
In the Maryland area, a business maker. It's a great opportunity that is provided by our alumnus. Once again, students, those opportunities are available for this summer. Your applications need to be in by this Friday. The work of Kristen, what she did, is going to tell us about sunscreens. With the 90-degree weather we had on Monday, everybody is looking to Kristen to see what she has formulated for a new sunscreen formulation. Kristen.
Thanks. I'm Kristen Leach, and I am working under the advisement of Dr. Lefevre on microwave-assisted synthesis of sunscreen. So as you've all probably heard, sunbathing and tanning aren't really good for the skin. Exposure to UV light can cause wrinkles, uneven pigmentation, melanoma, and skin cancer. Early civilizations probably didn't know too much about the connection of UV light and things, but they did probably see the connection between sunburn and sunlight. Sun protection dates back to the Egyptians, and historians say that they used oils and salves to protect their skin based on depictions of wet-looking skin, which was assumed to be wet with oil. There's a difference between sun protection and sunscreen. Sun protection has gone in and out of style over the past few centuries, and it includes anything from sunglasses to hats and parasols and umbrellas, and they're a physical barrier to sunlight. And sunscreen contains compounds that either absorb, scatter, or reflect, or a mixture of both, or all of UV light. Sunscreen research is reported to start around 1938 when a chemistry student, Franz Breiter, suffered from sunburn from his hobby of mountain climbing. So that was when the boom of sunscreen research began. In 1928, the first commercial sunscreen was available on the market, and it was an emulsion of benzyl salicate and benzyl cinnamate. Cinnamate is the family of sunscreens that will be synthesized later on. Mr. Green in 1940 came up with the Covertone sunscreen, and in 1948, para-aminobenzoic acid was patented, and it was UVB filter, which is known. Well, UVB causes sunburn, and UVA causes the more harmful things like melanoma and skin cancer. In 1978, FDA starts to regulate sunscreens, and 10 years later, the FDA approved the first UVA-only filter, which is avobenzene. These are some common cinemates that are found. The ethylhexyl paramethoxycinamate is found in sunscreens most commonly. Benzyl cinnamate was part of the first sunscreen that was on the market, and ethyl cinnamate is found in the oil of cinnamon. So for this experiment, the end goal was to produce a lab procedure for organic students that involves the synthesis of sunscreen agents while they learn about UV protection and the UV damage, and they will learn how to do basic esterification and collect NMR data and read NMR spectra and rotovap and a wide variety of organic techniques. This project has been ongoing since at least 2007 when Jason Poland started this project. I think he started it. But he basically set up the whole procedure, and I'm just working on using a microwave to better the technique and also trying out different kinds of synthesis. So why are microwaves important for synthesis? I'm sure you've heard this before today, but they are found in basically all households today, but they've only recently been started to be used in industry. And they're used because they're more economical than traditional setups because they can save money and time. And they're greener chemistry because you don't need as much solvent. And because it can focus all of its radiation on a certain point, you also get less unwanted side products. So this is the synthesis scheme that I've tried. The starting reagent is para-hydroxyanic acid, and then I took various kinds of alcohols that included anything from isopentanol to ethanol, and heated it in an acid environment and got an ester. And after the workup and purification, the ester was then used in the second esterification with potassium hydroxide and methanol. And I use methyl iodide in this case, and that would put a carbon chain on the other OH group. And these are some of the alcohols that I used for the experiment. So for the first esterification, I took about 100 milligrams of para-hydroxycinnamic acid and placed it in a microwavable vial with 2 ml of any given alcohol. Once the cinnamate dissolved, I put 1 drop of sulfuric acid in and then heated it for 30 minutes in a microwave right below the boiling point of the alcohol used.
All right, another fascinating presentation from Kristen Leach. We're going to take a quick break, but first...
Earlier today, I was at a presentation in the physics department, and they showed this video, and it shows a product that was actually built here at SUNY Oswego, and it's essentially a 60-inch iPhone. So take a look at this video.
Hey Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil. Above all, be positive. We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy, coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
So, are you going out tonight? I can't. My parents say I have to be home right after work. That's so gay. Totally gay.
Ugh, that is so Emma and Julia.
Why are you saying that's so Emma and Julia?
Well, you know, when something is dumb or stupid, you say that's so Emma and Julia.
Who says that? Everyone.
Imagine if who you are were used as an insult. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
If you were sleeping in this morning because you didn't come down, don't worry, WTOP is on right now, so don't be a clown. A Quest Day-filled show is what's on our agenda, but jot down some notes about what we're gonna send you. Oh, we know you really needed to do that response for some extra credit, so come down to pick up some coffee and donuts. They're free. I'm willing to bet it. With some presentations on Facebook and a balloon launch at 4, hopefully they won't make you run out the door. So if you can't make it, I forgive you, I'll say, but make sure you tune in and watch Sammy and Barry now with these highlights from Quest Day.
All right, thanks,
All right.
Alex, for that.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you're watching WTOP 10 coverage of Quest Day 2012, and the wait is over. I'm finally going to see this video that you've been raving about all afternoon.
It's just amazing. I'm not usually speechless, but this video just took my words away. Let's just not waste any more time. Let's get to it right now.
All right, and that definitely exceeded my expectations. That video was done by WTOP member and senior cinema and screen studies student Jeff Newell. So great job on that. And now I'm back with Gary Ritzenthaler, visiting assistant professor of journalism and new media. And he worked on a presentation with one of your students, correctly, Matt Treglia. Want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I teach a course on Intro to Media, and I help my students, during the class to look at different types of new media, and he was interested in virtual reality, and so we worked together to, help him during the class, and he's talking about virtual reality in therapy, and uses in post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that.
All right. What kind of research went into this?
It's kind of nice. I mean, a lot of these students, they work really hard on these presentations to, let's see, they had to do at least 3 or 4, rounds and
of experiments and things like that?
Yeah. So,
did you do any surveys or?
No, mostly it was just analysis of different current research. So he's kind of looking at what the state of the field is right now.
All right. And how was the presentation today? What were some of the highlights?
Well, for one thing, I was really pleased that there were so many people there.
It was a great turnout.
Yeah, massive turnout for all the. I had 6 presentations in the session that I did on the this morning for all communication students, and the room was filled for all of them, and overfilled for a couple of them.
That's so nice to see that the students come out and actually support, their peers and things like that.
Yeah.
I think we have a clip now of this presentation if you want to take a quick look at that.
Just a mistake in the creation of the program. He created this presentation on virtual reality and its uses. Well, I'll let him tell you about the uses. He told me that he was interested in the topic of virtual reality because he wanted to find out how it could have a positive impact on society. His Twitter account, if you want to send him a tweet to tell him how much you like the presentation, is TREGZ92. Tregs92. Take it away, Matt.
All right. So, like he said, I am Matt, and I'm going to teach you guys about virtual reality therapy. And how many of you know what virtual reality is exactly? Nobody?
Kind.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you guys a video a little bit about virtual reality, more about its history and how it got started first. Welcome, everyone, to the world of virtual reality. I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about virtual reality therapy. Virtual reality therapy is also known as virtual reality immersion therapy, and what it is, it's a psychotherapy that uses virtual reality technology to treat certain types of mental and physical disorders. It's actually now the primary treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, but I'll go into a little bit of that in a moment. Virtual reality therapy has quite a few uses, but some of its main uses are for anxiety disorders, pain or anxiety distraction, cognitive rehabilitation, physical rehabilitation, and some types of eating disorders. Okay, this is how it works. Virtual reality therapy uses the most sophisticated computer technology to recreate the sights and sounds of a certain environment, depending on what the patient is being treated for. Patients then put on the head mount display, which kind of looks something like that. There's a bunch of different kinds, but that's one of them. The head mount display gives them access to the simulated environment. So then what happens after the person enters the simulated environment, the therapist controls everything that the patient both sees and hears. And throughout the whole treatment, the therapist treats the patient certain types of relaxation techniques to make them relax and be able to go through the treatment successfully. And after a certain amount of exposures, hopefully the patient will start to feel better. Virtual reality therapy has quite a few advantages over regular therapy. One of the main things is it's obviously much safer than going into an actual therapy office and having to do things physically. And like, for example, if someone is afraid of snakes in an area where they live in snakes, they don't want to just go to a therapy office and have to face a bunch of actual snakes, because that could be quite terrifying. So in the virtual world, basically they can slowly face the snakes in a virtual world, and hopefully after that, it'll make them start to feel better about snakes. Therapists can also repeat the simulation as much as they want. Another advantage about it is that patients don't have to worry about being in an open environment. They're in a closed environment in a therapist's office with a mask on, so everything's all safe and nothing bad can happen throughout the whole treatment. And they just don't also have to worry about becoming panicked in a public place. According to the Med Center at Duke University, virtual reality therapy can actually be completely successful for most patients in about 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, post-traumatic stress disorder, like I said before, virtual reality therapy is becoming one of the best treatments for people that suffer through post-traumatic stress disorder. It's also known as PTSD, and what it is, it's a mental condition that's triggered by something terrifying that happened in the person's life. And symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, they include flashbacks, fears, severe anxiety, uncontrollable thoughts about the event. And according to Medscape.com, around 12 to 20% of people who come back from being in war, most likely the Iraq War, have post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's around 55,000 people a year, and estimated costs for treating these people for this disorder throughout their whole lifetimes is around $660 billion, which is actually $100 billion more than the whole war cost itself. This guy here is Albert Rizzo, and what he does, he's a clinical psychologist and scientist at the University of South California. And he's actually an expert at using virtual reality therapy to treat people with certain psychological disorders, especially for people that have post-traumatic stress disorder. And what he does, he uses habitation therapy, which is to repeatedly immerse a scene of the person's traumatic event in the virtual world. Like, for example, if a soldier in the war was experienced like a child, like sadly getting run over by a vehicle and dying, anytime the soldier in real life sees any child, it may trigger flashbacks and have anxiety, and I mean that's something you don't want to go through in your life. So what Rizzo does is he continually makes him face that over in the virtual world, like having the tragic event happen, so he can realize that in the real world, most likely that's never going to happen, and that was just something that was in the war. And that's what he does. He tries to break the connection between war and home. Rizzo created Virtual Iraq to use on his patients, which is actually a really cool simulation of the Iraqi war. And the Navy was actually so impressed by it that they asked him to create a one that's so realistic that can really help people out a lot. The simulation's actually so real that it recreates and smells and the bodies of people's bodies and things. Like, for example, say someone experienced their friend dying right next to them, and he literally, the guy's suffering from remembering it perfectly, like the smell and everything like that. He can Rizzo can recreate the event, so in the simulation, the guy can get shot right next to him, and it's so strong that as the guy turns his head, the smell of the body will get even stronger and stronger. That's how vivid his creation of Virtual Iraq is. And it's so good that the success rate of this treatment has been great. It's showing most people that do this show extreme improvement in about 5 to 6 weeks. Another thing that virtual reality therapy is known to treat is phobias, and what phobias are deep fears that literally debilitate people's lives. And what most therapists try to use to treat people with phobias is called systematic desensitization. And what that is it's slowly exposing the patient to their fear. If someone's afraid of spiders, one day the patient will go in and they'll say there's a spider in the room, but they won't actually see it. And the second day they'll have there'll be a cage of a spider, but there'll be a cloak over it. The third day they'll see the cage and the spider. The fourth week they'll make them crawl on their hands. But that treatment actually hasn't been very successful, and it's very slow. It takes a really long time to be successful, and it's actually very expensive because most people have a lot of fears of animals, and they have to keep animals alive just to do that. The most successful virtual reality phobia treatment is the Virtual Medical Center in California, and most people go into this treatment for public speaking, so that's actually the #1 fear for most people. And what happens is patients enter this virtual reality world where they have to give a speech, and the therapist then controls the whole audience. Like, they can make people walk in the room like late, or they can make people yawn, they can make people put their heads down. So, and the therapist actually measures when the...
All right, welcome back. You're watching WTOP 10 coverage of Quest Day 2012. That was a great informative presentation from student Matt Treglia.
But we're getting some breaking news into the studio now. According to TMZ and Good Morning America, we're learning that Dick Clark has died at the age of 82. The legendary host, known for hosting the New Year's Rockin' Eve from 1972 to 2006, passed away earlier this morning in a New York City hospital.
Virtual reality therapy to treat people with certain types of burn pains. At the University of Washington, psychologist Hunter Hoffman, who's that guy, used a simulation of this winter wonderland on his burn patients, and patients that have third-degree burns would put on the head mount display when being clean of their wounds. And what would happen is patients would float around this snowy environment, and like there was snowmen, penguins, just everything cold, so the patients wouldn't have to worry about being clean of their third-degree burns during their treatment. And patients reported that this therapy was so effective that the pain was reduced from actually 50% to 90%. But the cool thing was that patients didn't even care that they were floating around a snowy world. They said just the fact that they were putting on a mask and entering a different world was completely distracting them of any thoughts about having their horrible wounds cleaned for hours. And right here, I got a video of everything I just talked about with burn patients. It's pretty accurate.
Science Central.
I was on fire. I couldn't see to unbuckle my seatbelt or open the door. I believe my guardian angel just took me out of the truck.
First Lieutenant Samuel Brown survived an attack on his Humvee in southern Afghanistan, but he would then have to endure rounds of surgery, skin grafts, and painful skin stretching.
This is a battle that's going to take years to get back to being how it was prior to this.
But while Brown's body fights that battle, virtual reality technology lets his brain enjoy hurling snowballs to the music of Paul Simon. University of Washington researchers Hunter Hoffman and David Patterson designed the virtual reality game Snow World to occupy burn patients' minds during painful wound cleaning or physical therapy.
Snow World's the opposite of fire. Snowy, cold. It's supposed to cancel out and help distract them from remembering their original injury.
Their previous research showed that not only do patients report less pain in Snow World, MRI scans show it reduces the brain's pain signals. Brown's doctors see real improvement.
What we saw was marked improvement in the range of motion that we were able to achieve, and most importantly, an increased level of comfort.
As published in the Journal of Cybertherapy and Rehabilitation, the soldiers even report a fun quotient.
I spent some time growing up out in Colorado skiing during the winters and stuff, so, you know, if anything, it sort of brings back some of those memories.
A cool escape for a war hero putting the pieces back together. Brad Closa, Science Central News.
All right, welcome back from that presentation. Once again, breaking news into the studio now. Dick Clark has died at the age of 82.
Very sad news. We're gonna take a quick break. Stay with us.
Hey Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil.
Above all, be positive.
We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy, coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
So, are you going out tonight? I can't. My parents say I have to be home right after work. That's so gay.
Totally gay. Ugh, that is so Emma and Julia.
Why are you saying that's so Emma and Julia?
Well, you know, when something is dumb or stupid, you say that's so Emma and Julia.
Who says that?
Everyone.
Imagine if who you are were used as an insult. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
If you were sleeping in this morning because you didn't come down, don't worry, WTOP is on right now, so don't be a clown. A Quest Day-filled show is what's on our agenda, but jot down some notes about what we're gonna send you. Oh, we know you really needed to do that response for some extra credit, so come down to pick up some coffee and donuts. They're free. I'm willing to bet it. With some presentations on Facebook and a balloon launch at 4, hopefully they won't make you run out the door. So if you can't make it, I forgive you, I'll say, but make sure you tune in and watch Sammy and Barry now with these highlights from Quest Day.
All right, once again, thank you, Alex. And we are currently counting down right now to the top of the hour. We're going to have a live weather balloon launch from the north, I think, where it's going to be right in front of the campus center in the lawn there.
So many of these presentations have been so entertaining today. The one that was just on for the virtual reality just completely blew me away with how realistic it could be, even down to the smells.
It really is amazing, and Quest Day is just so... We're so lucky to have Quest Day here because it really gives us a chance to appreciate what the students at the school are actually doing.
And a lot of these are the senior projects, and what a great way to end your career here at SUNY Oswego with going out with such a fantastic presentation and having so much support from your peers.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad we were able to bring some of these to the students because especially that touchscreen that we showed going into a break earlier and the Connect thing we showed at the top of the broadcast. It's just amazing what's actually going on here that I really had no idea what was going on.
Exactly. Nobody knows what actually goes on. You know, you're so focused in what you're doing, and today is a great way to show what your peers are doing, you know, on their free time, you know, outside of class. This is so much work that they put into it, even from the beginning of the year. Some of these started in September, so.
Absolutely. So what's been your favorite thing so far today?
That virtual reality one was just very interesting to me. But the first one we also started out with Connect and how they are turning that into something to, you know, look at the joints and your expressions and things like that. That was amazing.
All right, we're getting word that they might be possibly launching the balloon. Let's take a dive in. I don't know if we have audio yet from the field, but let's just take a look at the video for now. I'm not too sure, but that's why we sent our chief meteorologist, Pat Kavlin, out. He's going to be telling us, as soon as he gets all set out there, he's going to be telling us what's going on.
Well, they have a great day of weather for it.
Absolutely. We tried to do this last year during our Quest Day broadcast to cover the live weather balloon launch, and it actually got canceled due to weather.
Oh, all right.
So hopefully we have, I am hearing a little bit of audio out there, but I think we're going to go to another presentation now. But we'll go to the weather balloon launch as soon as we can, and as soon as it comes in, we won't let you miss that. So I believe we have Morgan Levner next, and she's talking about the implication of Facebook.
I want to send her congratulations after she's done. Is MOLAVV 14. MOLAV. Everybody ready? Take it away.
Okay, thanks, Professor. I'm not going to go into detail about Facebook because I'm sure some turn out like most of you know what it is. And for those of you that don't, social networking on Facebook is to update your statuses and upload pictures and talk to your friends. And I'd like to start off by asking you guys a few questions. So how many of you actually have a Facebook and use it daily? Right. How many of you think that it has a negative impact on your GPA? And raise your hand if you don't think it does. So no matter where you stand on the topic, and she found that a student's GPA is higher if you don't have a Facebook account. So typically the user has between a 3.0 and a 3.5, and people without a Facebook have a 3.5 to a 4.0. And she also found that a student studies on average for more hours per week if they do not have a Facebook account. And the typical user studies about 1 to 5 hours per week, and that of a non-user has 11 to 15 hours of studying time per week. Karpinski said that it's significant that the link between lower grades and Facebook use was even found in graduate students, because graduate students usually have a 3.5, so it was pretty shocking to her that even graduate students have this issue with studying and being on Facebook. And she also found in her study that students who spent more time working at paid jobs were less likely to use Facebook, and people with extracurricular activities after school, like clubs and sports, are usually on Facebook more. And also, the students who major in technology, science, math, engineering, and business were also linked to being on Facebook a lot more than people of other majors. The second study I researched was by Paul A. Christianera, and he's a psychologist from the Open University of the Netherlands. And he says that college students who are on Facebook while studying or doing homework and being distracted have 20% lower grades than students who don't have a social networking site and visual range, which means like minimize on your laptop or mobile notifications on your phone. He discussed the stereotype that younger people are fluid multitaskers. However, he concluded that the problem is that most people who have Facebook, their emails, and maybe instant messaging on in the background while they're trying to study have problem while trying to carry out other tasks. Kirschner told the Daily Mail newspaper that his team studied 219 random U.S. university students between the ages of 19 and 24, and he asked them background information such as what their major was, what classes they were in, what extracurricular activities they did, and their Facebook usage. He found that GPA differed when it came to whether or not.
All right, so it's so true. Facebook is procrastination at its finest. I know during finals week, I know some people that have to change their password and give it to their friends so that they can't get in.
I know, it's horrible. She just put up the statistic that Facebook can lower your grades by 20%.
Absolutely.
I
believe it.
And I believe it, yeah, that's the sad part.
All that time you stand on there, you know, stalking everybody and looking at your news feed. You could be studying flashcards, reading a book, but it just consumes you.
All right, we're waiting the countdown of the weather balloon launch. Our meteorologist, Pat Kavlin, is frantically running around trying to get that ready. Do we have a countdown yet, Pat? Do we have a countdown? About 5-10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. So we'll go to that as soon as we get it. Until then, back to Facebook.
And attempting to study while you're on Facebook is like trying to lose weight while only eating McDonald's. It just won't help. Students should understand and know the fact that Facebook has been becoming more detrimental to students' GPAs over the past few years, and this is mainly due to apps and games and other features that have been located on Facebook. And my next study is broken up into two parts. It's a study that was done in 2011, and the same study was redone in 2012. And a professor at Lockhaven University named Ray Hunko did the same study 2 different times and also less than a year apart. And his first study was done in October of 2011. And his goal is to see whether or not Facebook actually had a detrimental effect on the overall GPA of college students. And his conclusion was that it does. And he studied over 1,000 undergraduate students, and he collected data on Facebook use by surveying students on their college grades. And he says that today there are only 3 other published studies of Facebook linked to academic performance. But however, his is the only study that uses a large sample of students, includes better estimates of Facebook use, connects survey data to actual grades, as well as using high school GPA as the control variable. And after he ran the study, he concluded that the average time students spent on Facebook was 106 minutes per day, and each increase of 93 minutes beyond the mean decreased GPA by 0.12 points. And that means that the mean was 106 minutes per day, so every student that went over 93 minutes per day, their GPA usually went down 0.12 points. Huko's second study came just a few weeks ago on April 5th. He said that all the items from the original list were kept, and most of them were edited for clarity and relevance. He wanted to make his first study more clear and detailed, so he decided to do it over again. For this study, Huko used 2 separate ways to determine the frequency of Facebook use. He asked the students the average time.
All right, we're taking a live look now at the weather balloon launch. Our meteorologist Ryan Farrell is assisting there. Pat Cavlin is joining us now in the studio. Tell us a little bit more about what's going on right now.
That's right. Okay, so right now, as you see, as you mentioned, one of the meteorologists, Ryan Farrell, he's out there and they're inflating the balloon right now. Okay, and they inflate it with the helium tank. And as you can see, he's got latex gloves on. I don't know if you can see that in the shot, but those latex gloves are to protect the balloon from getting any oils from his skin on it. Kind of like when you have your, you're replacing a headlight in your car, and you know, when you don't want to touch the lamp because it creates a weak spot in the lamp. So that's kind of what's going on here. He's got the latex gloves on so that the oils from his skin don't rub off onto latex and create a weak spot in the balloon so that it's able to travel all the way up through the atmosphere to gather the information that we want without popping.
Well, that's a little fun fact.
All right, so do you have any estimate about how far away we are on a launch here?
Looks like they're about 3/4 of the way filled with the balloon, maybe about half of the way. So as soon as they finish the balloon, inflating the balloon, they're going to turn the gas off, they're going to tie it off, and then they're going to attach something called a rayon sonde. Okay, and the rayon sonde is the computer device that you're going to attach to the balloon that's going to collect all the data. So we're going to be getting GPS data, so we know the trajectory of the balloon, which is going to give us an idea of the winds and how they change with height. We're also going to get temperature data and dew point data. So it's going to tell us what the temperature is and how it changes throughout the atmosphere, as well as the dew point. And it's going to be in the form of something we call a skew T log P, and it's basically a graph that shows how the temperature changes with respect to the rate at which the temperature changes. And this can be really critical in forecasting, especially severe weather events.
Now, are these live results? Do you get these live? Or
Yeah,
do you
we
have
get
to
these
wait?
live. We get it. So this, if anyone goes out there right now, you'll see the balloon is being inflated right outside of the entrance by Crossroads and the box office, the information center of the campus center, and so the sonde that's attached to it is received. The signal from it is received from an antenna. Okay. The antenna is set up somewhere in between that entrance and so you see in the shot right there, if you could zoom in there, that's where the antenna is, right down there. It's in between the campus center entrance by the food court and where they're setting it up. And so that antenna, that antenna is going to receive the information from the sonde, all right? And that antenna is connected to a computer that is in the food court in the campus center here. So it's a pretty spread out operation, but overall that's pretty much how it works. So you've got the sonde and the balloon goes up, it transmits the signal to the antenna takes that signal and puts it into the computer, and we store that data.
How long is all of this supposed to take?
The balloon itself will probably travel for about an hour until it gets to the top of the atmosphere, and at that point it will pop.
Oh, all right.
So it's a pretty long process. Overall, the entire thing takes about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half to complete, from the time that you're setting it up to the time that the balloon pops.
All right, and you, the meteorologist from here, will be monitoring that data the entire time?
That's right. Ryan Farrell, as you can see there in the shot, and I'm not sure if there's anyone else with him. It looks like maybe Mike Stallman is out there. and Dr. Steiger. Dr. Steiger is one of the meteorology professors here with SUNY Oswego. They will all be monitoring this and answering questions for anyone that's walking by and has anything to ask about it. And they will be there until the data is completely stored and taken.
And he's been the professor that's been there all along helping them with this project?
Yes, he's in charge of a synoptic meteorology class, and that's really the class that studies forecasting weather analysis. And so learning how to launch rain sondes and how to interpret the data is really a critical part of that class. So a lot of the students in that class, myself being one of them, have really learned a lot about all this kind of stuff through this class and through him.
All right,
also, I think Dr. Skubis is also out there, another member of the meteorology department. He's also out there overseeing it. So.
Now, how often does a balloon launch? How often do the students at this school get to do this?
Balloon launches are pretty much determined, by however much the students want to do it or how much the professor wants to do it. And it's really, right now we're obviously doing it for the purpose of Quest Day, but the other day when we had that threat of thunderstorms in the region, we launched 2 within 2 hours of each other just so we could sample the upper air data to see if the probability for severe weather was in the cards for us.
And did you learn anything interesting from that one, do you know?
Yeah, we did actually. What we learned is, as some of you may have heard, there were the threat of possibly getting some thunderstorms on Monday. And it didn't really come to fruition. We had a few showers here, but none of them were quite as intense as what we had thought. And the data that we collected from those 2 balloon launches showed that the reason was mainly because the air at the surface was so dry that it didn't allow for any of the air parcels to kind of initiate and start rising into the atmosphere. And so that's why we didn't really get too much of a severe weather outbreak or really any thunderstorms at all. And that was all thanks to those 2 balloons that we kind of figured out what went wrong in the forecast for that day.
Okay.
All right, while we're waiting for the balloon to launch, let's take a quick break if we can do that. We'll take a break, and if the balloon launches, we'll come back and bring that to you. But don't go anywhere. Balloon launch coming up in the next 15 minutes.
Hey Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil.
Above all, be positive.
We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
2 and 3. Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy. Coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
So, are you going out tonight? I can't. My parents say I have to be home right after work.
That's so gay.
Totally gay.
Ugh, that is so Emma and Julia.
Why are you saying that's so Emma and Julia?
Well, when something is dumb or stupid, you say that's so Emma and Julia.
Who says that?
Everyone.
Imagine if who you are were used as an insult. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
All right, I want to bring you back. We're getting word that the balloon is close to launching. I think they're doing some last-minute preparations. Pat, do you know what they're doing?
Yes, okay, so right now they're tying the sonde onto the balloon. So basically you fill the balloon until it starts to lift off the ground. At that point, you shut the gas off, you tie it off, and then you disconnect it from the nozzle that has the gas. So once you disconnect it from the nozzle, you have to tie the sonde on. That's what they're doing right now. So all this time while the balloon is being filled, the sonde is being calibrated in the computer that we have in the food court here in the campus center. So we should be launching momentarily here. Dr. Steiger, you can see on the ground, he's just finishing up tying that knot. And there's the sonde there in Ryan Farrell's hand. You can see the silver part there. That's the antenna that's going to be receiving and collecting the data there. and it's just really bulky because it's got it's a battery pack, so it's got 4 AAA batteries in there. And so once they finish tying that on, they're going to let a little string out, and I'm not sure who is going to be releasing it, but they're going to release that balloon and start collecting the data. Now, before all of this is going on, or simultaneously, we usually have 1 or 2 people collecting surface observations, so collecting current. Oh, there's Rick Garakis. That's who's holding the sonde there on the ground, and Ryan Farrell is still holding the balloon. So anyway, when you get the surface observations, you're collecting temperature, you're collecting dew point, relative humidity, wind speed and direction, and surface pressure. And you also need to know the altitude of the location you're launching from. For Oswego, you usually use a figure around 91 meters. So once Dr. Steiger has finished tying this off, which it looks like he's right about ready to do, I'm probably Rick is going to be launching it, or maybe Dr. Steiger. They're going to take it to a wide open field so it's allowed to go straight up without any interference from buildings, trees, any of that. I mean, the last thing you want is this balloon running into something. It was pretty interesting. Is the other day when we launched the 2 balloons, there was so much movement in the atmosphere with that intense heating that a lot of thermals got created. And so when we launched the balloon, it went straight up, but then took a dip down before turning and then going straight up. And it kind of made your heart skip a beat there for a second, because last thing you want is, with the entire campus watching you, is for this balloon to just launch and fall out of the sky. But fortunately, they were both successful launches, and we got some really fascinating data. What we don't do commonly is we don't launch 2 balloons within an hour or 2 of each other, and that's what we did the other day. We launched 2 within 2 hours. So it was really interesting to see how the temperature profile throughout the atmosphere was changing as the cold front approached.
All right, it looks like we're getting really close to launch now. Dr. Steiger has the balloon in hand.
That's right. So
he's going to that field now that Pat talked about earlier. Oh, he's handing it off.
So it looks like Samantha Wessing, a junior meteorology student here at SUNY Oswego, she's probably going to be launching the balloon. So they're going to go. They're going to take it out to an open field, as I had mentioned. I'm not sure where the winds were coming from. I think they were a little westerly, so they shouldn't have to go too far away so it won't really be running into any buildings. But they'll probably take it to the middle of the field, and they're going to do a quick countdown. Hopefully we can zoom out. There we go. Zoom out there and watch the launch.
Get a good perspective of the size of the balloon there.
Right. So they should be doing a countdown shortly, and they'll be there. You go.
There we go. The balloon is off.
So the balloon now will travel up through the atmosphere. And as you can see, it's unwinding now, so that you have that spool there, kind of like when you have a kite and you're flying a kite, you have a spool. And so now that spool is unreleasing, which is why you see it spinning like that. Once it stops unfurling, it should take a more direct trip up. And as I mentioned, it'll travel with the wind. Since the winds are westerly, it'll probably end up somewhere to the east of us or northeast, depending on how the winds change with height. But usually what happens is the balloon pops and the sonde lands somewhere in Canada or in Lake Ontario.
And someone gets a lucky souvenir,
right? Someone
gets
a lucky souvenir from the Oswego Meteorology Department.
That's right. So now, are people already collecting data? Is that going on right now?
The computer is collecting data live from the. So the computer knows.
Are there students monitoring that right now?
There should be. There should be 1 or 2 people monitoring it as the balloon goes through the atmosphere. And as I mentioned, that data will collect until the time that the balloon pops, which should be roughly about 45 minutes to an hour from now.
And you'll be able to see pretty clearly on the computer when the balloon has popped?
Yes, you will. The sonde will, you'll notice a difference in the temperature profile. Usually happens where the troposphere meets the stratosphere. So here on Earth, we're in the troposphere, and right above us, we've got the stratosphere. And where those two meet is the tropopause. And that's usually a little bit above that is where the balloon pops.
All right, so you can see now, you can still see the weather balloon in camera view there. Yep. We might have, nope, there it is. It's still there. It looks a little bit, looks a little bit like the sun or moon right now, but that is the weather balloon attached by, what is a type of string or something that it's attached by? Ribbon or something?
Something heavy duty, it can't detach.
The sonde itself comes with a spool. So it's attached to the spool.
Okay.
And it's not as heavy duty as you think it was. It's just string. Yeah. I mean, it's strong enough so that it won't fall off.
So it
but
looks
it's
like
nothing heavy duty.
We lost our picture there, but we want to thank our videographer Jordan Harmon for getting that for us. There's as it drifts off into the sunset.
Into the wild blue yonder.
Absolutely, and someone will get a lucky souvenir later today. All right, thanks, Pat, for joining us.
Anytime. Thank you for covering it.
We're going to take one more quick break, and then I think we'll have a little bit more of a presentation, and then that will wrap up our coverage here. But don't go anywhere. Still have lots more fun and activities here in the next 10 minutes. Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey, Laker fans, remember the following. Be loud, be proud, be funny, be civil.
Above all, be positive.
We've cleaned up our act on the ice. Now it's your turn to clean up yours in the stands.
2 and 3. Well, now I'm Naked Cowboy. Coming to a town near you. You're watching WTOP TV 10, Oswego, New York. I'm Naked Cowboy.
Maria's Family Restaurant, located at 111 West 2nd Street. Always serving breakfast all day with lunch and dinner. 10% student discount weekdays with valid ID. Homemade desserts are available, including cakes and pies. 315-216-4562.
You're always welcome at Maria's Family Restaurant.
So, are you going out tonight? I can't. My parents say I have to be home right after work. That's so gay. Totally gay.
Ugh, that is so Emma and Julia.
Why are you saying that's so Emma and Julia?
Well, you know, when something is dumb or stupid, you say that's so Emma and Julia.
Who says that?
Everyone.
Imagine if who you are were used as an insult. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
If you were sleeping in this morning because you didn't come down, don't worry, WTOP is on right now, so don't be a clown. A Quest Day-filled show is what's on our agenda, but jot down some notes about what we're gonna send you. Oh, we know you really needed to do that response for some extra credit, so come down to pick up some coffee and donuts. They're free. I'm willing to bet it. With some presentations on Facebook and a balloon launch at 4, hopefully they won't make you run out the door. So if you can't make it, I forgive you, I'll say, but make sure you tune in and watch Sammy and Barry now with these highlights from Quest Day.
All right, welcome back to our WTOP 10 Quest Day coverage. Once again, we want to remind you of some breaking news coming into the newsroom. Legendary TV anchor Dick Clark has died at age 82. All right, we're going to finish up the Facebook presentation that we started earlier, and then we'll wrap it up here. But once again, just to remind you, Dick Clark, legendary TV anchor and host of Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve from 1972 to 2006, has passed away this morning in St. John's Hospital in New York City at 82.
Is checked, and you use categorical measures like 1 and 2 and 3 to 4 to make sure the data is relatively correct. The study found that the overall time spent on Facebook did affect student grades, but students who performed certain specific actions on the site had higher grades than others. And he says that students who shared links and simply checked the site to see what their friends were up to had higher grades than those who updated their statuses frequently. The second part of the study was to examine the use of social media in the classroom specifically. And he claimed that one thing has been clear while doing these tests, and it was that Facebook is the overwhelming choice for students when compared to other social networking sites. And his study also found that almost every student in the sample gave him an answer about Facebook that he was not surprised to hear, and that they'd rather be on Facebook than pay attention in the classroom. From there on out, his mission was to then engage the students using Facebook to help convince professors to use the site for educational good. He says that teachers can integrate Facebook into the course by setting up a Facebook group and using the group for class discussions. This way, students will be able to interact with one another and ask the teacher questions and post and comment class-related links. Despite Professor Humpo's claim that Facebook could not be helpful, there is still no immediate set-in-stone proof that Facebook does better GPA. Numerous studies have been done and are being done when it comes to Facebook and all other social media sites. And all of them so far claim that it's only harming the students when it comes to school. And just as Karpinski and Kershera have said, students should not only believe the fact that Facebook harms grades, but understand how to not let it get to a point where you're on it 24/7 and it is actually impacting your schooling. Don't let Facebook get in the way of your grades, achieving your goals or aspirations, or getting in the way of life. Let Facebook be used as the tool that it was created for and nothing more. And now I have a video that sums this all up, and I asked some of my friends, also fellow SUNY Oswego students, about what they thought.
I mean, 1 to 2 hours a day.
1 to 2.
6+ hours.
1. Probably between 1 and 2 hours a day.
6 + 3, 9 hours. 1 to 2 hours a day. I don't think it does. I think if you don't spend time on there, then you'd spend time doing something else. It doesn't necessarily mean that you'd spend the time studying.
No, I don't think it has a negative effect. No, it does not. Really?
No.
No, because I'm a genius.
No.
I think that Facebook probably does have a negative impact on my grades.
For goodness sakes, no.
Sometimes, but I try and get off it as much as possible, and when I have a big test to study for, I deactivate it.
Yes.
Then I would probably get rid of my Facebook.
Wow, that's crazy.
I didn't know that. Maybe now I'll spend even less time on it.
I would probably delete it.
Ooh, wow!
For a little while.
I would not believe that at all.
If that were true, I would probably get rid of my Facebook.
I would not believe that would be true.
I would say that's a good thing and that we should get rid of Facebook. Everybody should get off it.
Oh my God!
A great presentation from Morgan Lavner on the effects of Facebook to wrap up our evening here. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us on our coverage, WTOP, for the 2012 Quest Day. I'm Samantha DiMascio.
And I'm Barry Wygel. I just want to give a special thank you to our crew tonight, our producers, Jordan Harmon and Mike DeWolf, our audio, Alan Wengert, our graphics operator, Carolyn Joy. I got to think of who else is out here. Our camera people, Tyler Baker-Carr and Chelsea Gorsica, and Justin Andrews back on Tape Op, and Adam Shear on Technical Director. That's going to do it for us here at WTOP 10 News. Our regularly scheduled 10 p.m. newscast will be airing later tonight. So you got a couple hours off, and then we expect to see you right back here at 10 o'clock. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us for this 2012 Quest Day coverage.